Monty Show, the truth in sports talk streaming. When you want unbiased opinions about your favorite team without the spin, all you have to do is find the Monty Show, streaming live and available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on YouTube. And now, here's Monty.
Hey, yo, man. How the heck are you? The Monty Show, live on your YouTube machine. Thank you so much to everybody who watches this show. You know, I tell you every day on the show that without you, we wouldn't have a show, and I truly mean that. I am so thankful. Jake's not. He's kind of a dick about it, but I am really thankful for all of you who make it possible for us to do this show every day. Please hit the thumbs up. Give us a like. That really helps the channel grow. The Monty Show, as always, is presented by The Advocates. TheAdvocates.com, the best injury attorneys in the business. The Advocates. Tell you what, man. When you get in an accident, it is likely one of the most stressful days in your life. There are so many things that you are not even aware of that are happening around you because of this singular incident. Whether you got hurt at work, maybe you were just riding your bicycle down the street, a guy on his phone was distracted and he hit you. That's not your fault. You didn't deserve to get in that accident, but you deserve somebody to fight for you, somebody who's been through the process, somebody to be your advocate. That's why you go to The Advocates, theadvocates.com, where you never pay a penny out of pocket to The Advocates. In fact, it costs you nothing to chat with an attorney online right now, live, 24/7, 365. Theadvocates.com, where you never pay unless and until they win your case. How the heck are you? Happy Friday. I know that everybody is here for the George Kliavkoff celebration of life. You know,
calculations.
George, listen, my guy, I don't even know where to begin with this today, because Kliavkoff said that they were not going to announce a TV deal today because they didn't want to take any of the focus away from football. And hey, listen, I get it. Pac-12 football, I've told you for months and months on this show, is undervalued nationally. There's no question about that. But what George Kliavkoff did today, I think absolutely took the spotlight off of football and ruined Pac-12 Media Day. Mm-hmm. I think what George Kliavkoff did today was an absolute travesty. It is an embarrassment. It is a blight on the face of this conference. It is a blight on the face of all 10 of the remaining members. It is an insult to just about everybody in this conference. George Kliavkoff is a buffoon. He is an embarrassment, and he should be fired as the commissioner of the Pac-12, because what he said today was ridiculous. First of all, I want to play some video of George. The first thing that everybody said today was, oh, George Kliavkoff is using a teleprompter, to which I say, that's fine, except if you're going to use a teleprompter, you need to be able to read. And he struggled mightily to read the prompter and to speak clearly and sound like he had some idea of what he was reading, because I think it came off poorly. I mean, I don't know about what you think about that.
I mean, there were definitely some moments where it just felt like he was kind of, just having difficulty, and I think that everyone wants to hate on the guy for using a teleprompter. I'm not hating on the guy for using a teleprompter.
That doesn't matter.
I think it's silly to hate on the guy. Now, if you want to say, well, did the other commissioners, did Greg Sankey or, Brett Yormark?
See, that's some petty ass BS. Who cares?
Who
cares?
But when we talk about, and we'll get to the video, but when we talk about, being a polished commissioner, I do think there's a little bit to it. Now, the idea, I do need to point out, the idea that we were at Big 12 Media Days, Brett Yormark had a pamphlet, it must have been 10 pages at least of his speech on paper. So it's not like these guys just talk off the top of the dome, dude.
I don't care that George Kliavkoff uses a teleprompter. The President of the United States for generations has used a teleprompter.
Yeah.
The problem is, again, before I play this clip, George Kliavkoff does not, to me, sound well-spoken, prepared, or intelligent. And I would think those three things are really important if you're going to be the commissioner of the Pac-12.
Before I finish my remarks, let me provide you with an update on our media rights negotiation and our approach to considering expansion. I know there's been never-ending speculation about the timing of our media deals, but in the end, we're on track to announce our deals at about the same time as everyone would have anticipated and predicted before the news of conference realignment. The Pac-12 Board of Directors has met regularly throughout the process and has been united in their commitment to one another and to the Pac-12. And this commitment and patience will be rewarded with an announcement in the near future. Getting the right deal has always been more important to our board and to the conference than getting the expeditious one.
What does that even mean? So you're on schedule had realignment not taken place. Well, the only problem is realignment did take place, sir. And the landscape of college football is changing not only day by day and hour by hour, minute by minute. And you stood up there today and said, hey, before we go on, I want to talk about this deal.
Mm-hmm.
And then you proceeded to just kick it all over the place. And I'm just curious, who wrote this speech? Because if George Kliavkoff wrote this speech, that would, like, you don't say that. And my issue is, if you think, well, because essentially what he's saying is everything's normal. There's nothing wrong here. There's nothing to see here.
Yeah, dude.
Everything, but the problem is there's plenty to see here. There are problems. The landscape of the media world is changing. You have to change with that, whether you have a media deal or you don't. There's a story breaking about ESPN that we're going to tell you about coming up in a minute. But ESPN is constantly evolving. That's one of your partners right now.
Mm-hmm.
He just sounds uninformed to me. And then here's what he said about expansion.
Regarding potential expansion, while we have already done the due diligence on expansion candidates many months ago and significantly narrowed our focus to a handful of schools, our sequence remains unchanged. First, we will conclude our media rights deals. Then our schools will sign our grant of rights, which has already been negotiated. And only then will we decide on potential expansion.
Media rights deals,
Mm-hmm.
and then just tripping and falling all over yourself. And only then, and he was asked about San Diego State, and he says he's never offered anybody a spot in the conference for expansion.
Right.
So is San Diego State lying?
So let me get this right. So San Diego State put it in writing that they were leaving the conference for no reason.
And then this one is very interesting because I actually think this is the best point that he has made, and it was made as an afterthought.
We constantly update our board. I think they're enthusiastic like I am about the media deal. But I will tell you what we've seen is that the longer we wait for the media deal, the better our options get. And I think our board realizes that. And there's an underlying shift in the media market that's happening, and we're long-term taking advantage of that. But short-term, it may have provided some hiccups.
He's not wrong. Everybody was up in arms over that bite.
Mm-hmm.
The longer we wait, the better it is. At this point, yes, because it's gone on over a year, and now it's almost like the cycle is coming back around, where you have this situation with Disney, by extension ESPN, trying to make a deal with Comcast to be an equity partner. There's this story breaking today where ESPN is going to the major sports entities in this country, MLB, NBA, NFL, saying, hey, why don't you buy an equity stake in ESPN and we'll be partners, which is absolutely brilliant because it means, like in the NFL, I believe it's $7 billion a year, whatever ESPN pays the NFL, they would get to take a certain amount off of that. The NFL would then own part of one of its largest distribution partners, and the distribution partner benefits because less cash is going out, and the sales funnel just got much larger.
Yeah.
Because the league is selling in, and ESPN and Disney are selling in. Brilliant. I agree. The longer it goes on, the better it is. And if that was the last thing he said, if this following bite in exchange had never happened, this would have been a very uneventful Pac-12 football media day. We would probably all just be talking who's the best team in the Pac-12.
Right.
But of course, it's George Kliavkoff, and we can't do that.
I don't want the opportunity to be missed today to talk about football. We're not announcing a media deal on purpose today because I want the focus to be on football.
George, just to follow on what you just said, I think a response ago, because it caught a lot of people's attention very quickly. You just said you're not announcing a deal today on purpose because you want the attention to be on football.
Yep.
To be clear, that would imply that the deal is done and codified and just you're waiting until after today.
I think you're reading too much into that.
So then what is the purpose behind not announcing something, which is what you just said?
We want to have the focus on football today. We have an incredibly good football story to tell, and we want that to be the focus today.
But that's not what you said. That's not what you said. On purpose. And I think this is an incredibly important moment in time for the Pac-12. Because you hear all of this wild speculation, and you have Heather Dinich from ESPN the other day just jumping into the deep end of the pool head first, like probably doesn't know how to swim. Like she's all in on it. The radio wizard of the Northwest, who has not been seen or heard from today, is all in on it. Like, you hear all of this stuff. And yet, the one guy who seems to have a set of balls on him, James Crepea from the Oregonian, asks the follow-up question because listen to what George Kliavkoff says. There's two words here that are really important. And those two words are on purpose.
I don't want the opportunity to be missed today to talk about football. We're not announcing a media deal on purpose today because I want the focus to be on football.
George, just to follow on what you just said, I think a response ago, because it caught a lot of people's attention very quickly. You just said you're not announcing a deal today on purpose because you want the attention to be on football.
Yep.
To be clear, that would imply that the deal is done and codified and just you're waiting until after today.
I think you're reading too much into that.
So then what is the purpose behind not announcing something, which is what you just said?
We want to have the focus on football today. We have an incredibly good football story to tell, and we want that to be the focus today.
You're just a goof. You're an embarrassment. You are incompetent. George Kliavkoff is Larry Scott, but worse.
8.0.
Because at least Larry Scott was well-spoken. At least when Larry Scott was incompetent, he could at least spit shine the turd, right? This guy can't even do that. When you say something like, hey, we're not announcing this on purpose, it means there's a purpose to not announcing the TV deal today. Because he said, we're not announcing the TV deal today on purpose. Okay, thank you, James Crepea from the Oregonian. What was the purpose of not announcing your TV deal today? Oh, well, you're just reading too much into that. So you don't have a TV deal. That's what you're saying. The other thing that was wildly obvious today that I think a lot of people are not pointing out, where were the other questions? Where was the media asking, well, you had a meeting with your presidents. What was discussed in that meeting? His answer would have been, well, I'm not going to talk about that. Okay, were dollar figures discussed? Was the TV deal discussed, and were dollar figures discussed with those presidents? I'm not going to talk about that today. Okay, no problem. Do you believe that you're going to be able to get all 10 of these teams in this conference to sign a grant of rights with the media deal that you are purposefully not announcing today? Do you believe that all 10 members of this conference will sign the grant of rights with the deal that you maybe or maybe not presented to them yesterday? Ask the question. But I think the thing that happened here was, as soon as this situation with on purpose and James Crepea happened, what happened with the presser? It ended almost immediately. And this is why we have not heard from George Kliavkoff in 7 months. Since I believe it was December or January.
Facts.
Was the last time that George Kliavkoff did something like this. We haven't heard from him in 7 months. And this is why. You're one day where football can be front and center. And George Kliavkoff completely botched it. And Jake, I just don't understand why and how George Kliavkoff will continue to be the commissioner of the Pac-12.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why you would allow him to continue representing the conference. I mean, it's so funny you bring up the point about him not talking since December or January. He was asked point blank about that. And what was the excuse? Well, the excuse was, well, we were taking the high road. We weren't going to get involved in all the speculation, and we weren't going to comment on what people were talking about with our media deal and, the path of the conference. So for me, I just think George is tactically as a speaker is not great. And I think George doesn't understand that when you're a commissioner, every word you speak matters. Like quite literally, every word you speak matters. And I think that's why this on purpose thing is so powerful. Because again, it has a different meaning than saying, hey, we're not going to talk about the situation with our TV deal. Because that's really where, he kind of hung himself, if you will. That's really where he kind of trapped himself with the media. Because he said he made it very clear that they had a deal, or that was the inference, and then he rolled out on purpose. Whereas if you would have just said, hey, we're not gonna discuss the situation as it currently stands with our media rights negotiations, because we would like to spend media day focusing on the student athletes and the sport itself. That is how you need to roll it out. Not, hey, we're intentionally not talking about our media rights deal because we want to focus on football. You're trying to say the same thing, but you're saying it two different ways, and you happen to say it in a way where my guy over here, James Crepea from the Oregonian, took you to the woodshed over it, and then you finished the presser on a negative note.
Because you said on purpose.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, so when it comes to, like, we started the show talking about the teleprompter thing. And I agree with you. The teleprompter thing is a rather stupid criticism. But you're going to get criticized over the teleprompter because in your opening regards that we just played, you were tripping over yourself, and then you made that mistake.
But what is the use of a teleprompter for a guy like George Kliavkoff represent? This is the balls of the conversation. He can't talk freely off the top of his head. And again, we were there. We watched it happen live at Big 12 Football Media Days last week in Tarrant County, Texas.
Tarrant County.
Right, at AT&T Stadium. You have a commissioner in Brett Yormark who stood up there in front of a crowd at Big 12 Football Media Day that was at least 4, maybe 5 times the size of this one, with a piece of paper in his hand, not in front of a teleprompter with prepared remarks. Brett Yormark can talk off the top of his head. You can't trust George Kliavkoff to do that.
Mm-hmm.
He probably does not trust himself. That's what that says. And then he has trouble reading the teleprompter, which I'm telling you, I know you think I'm nitpicking. I'm telling you it's an issue because he does not come off well-spoken, right? And then when you get into the free-form question and answer, he completely botched it. And I think it was innocuous. I don't think there was any intent behind it. It's funny. My wife was busting my balls today.
Mm-hmm.
In the basement, I played golf this morning. I went to the driving range. I came home. My wife works at home. I was in the basement stretching in her general work area. And I can't remember what we were talking about. I think we were talking about golf courses. And I said, man, what I wouldn't give. And she stopped and she said, no, what you would give. Right? Like she made, it's not what you wouldn't give, it's what you would give. Exactly right, George Kliavkoff. You said on purpose. We're not announcing the TV deal on purpose. My guess is George was trying to say, I'm not here to talk about the TV deal because our football teams deserve better. They deserve the entire spotlight. I am not going to comment on the terms, the status of this TV deal. And what they should do is have a separate media function for George next week, at some point down the road, where I'm going to sit and do a Zoom call, whatever it is, I don't care. I'll do a Q&A with the media at some point, but it won't be today because Pac-12 football deserves the spotlight. And they do. You have multiple teams in this conference that are going to play for a national championship potentially. Yet we're not talking about that. We're not talking about Lincoln Riley. We're not talking about Kyle Whittingham. We're not talking about Kalen DeBoer. We're not talking about Penix Jr. We're not talking about Caleb Williams no longer having an afro. We're not talking about Cam Rising. We're talking about George Kliavkoff, the buffoon, the embarrassment, the guy who, in my opinion, now cannot continue as the commissioner of the Pac-12. It simply cannot happen, even if it's just on this San Diego State situation, because I also think that was a huge part of this today. When he said, we have not had discussions, we have not issued invitations to anybody. So either San Diego State's completely incompetent and they're just lying through their teeth, or George Kliavkoff is completely incompetent and lying through his teeth, or worst case scenario, they're both completely incompetent.
Yep.
Because that's what it feels like.
Yeah, I mean, no matter what, someone comes out looking stupid. And I just think, look, the reason it surprises me so much that he had this gaffe, if you will, this mistake, this mishandling of the whole thing today, the reason it's so surprising is because it's not like this was some surprise event. It's not like, this is TMZ rolling up on you in the street, right? Like this is an event that you're putting on that you're going to kick off. And what's so funny about it is you decided it would be a good idea to roll out on the dais or the podium at 8 a.m. Pacific. You didn't wait till 11:30 or noon on the first day like Brett Yormark did, right? You didn't wait for media day to kind of get going and allow people to do some interviews, let people work a little bit. Then we're going to officially kick off the event. You didn't do it that way. You wanted to get in there early and get out as fast as possible. And the problem is, and what I feel like nobody in the national media wants to talk about, is after that whole incident got done and wrapped up, they go and have their little panel, right, where George, I think his associate commissioner, I believe it was, or whatever, and Mark Harlan, the AD at Utah, the three of them are sitting on stage answering questions, and Mark Harlan is sitting over here for probably 10 minutes before someone asks him a question. First question he gets, knocks it out of the ballpark, sounds perfectly prepared and ready to go and polished. Anybody else felt like, wow, maybe this guy should be the one doing the talking. Because I wonder, what would this conference be like if you had a polished, just a professional speaker at the helm?
What would this conference be like if Brett Yormark was the one navigating these difficult waters?
Yeah. Probably wouldn't be in difficult waters.
If Brett Yormark or Mark Harlan, I even tweeted it today. Here, I'll say what everybody's thinking. Mark Harlan should be the commissioner of the Pac-12. But he's not, and it's George Kliavkoff. All right, enough of us. More of you. Let's get your thoughts in here on the show. As always, all of our comment section, all of the things that you guys say on the show, we appreciate you so much. You guys carry the show every single day. And as we usually do, if you guys contribute to the show, we read your comments first. Matt Ritson gets to lead us off today. He gives us $5 to say the Pac-12 Conference and Commissioner should run media day at Circus Hotel Vegas. Was most embarrassing watch on TV. There are no TV deals.
By the way, that's the other thing we got to talk about. I'm glad you brought that up. How many of your streams are you going to put out that don't have audio? How many radio shows are you going to do on your network that are doing the show while George is talking and you're not piping in George's press conference?
Yeah, that was remarkable today, like driving into the office, trying to find George Kliavkoff's press conference and having to listen to it on my phone. And the first YouTube channel I pulled up from the Pac-12 had no audio stream on it. He's standing there just talking away. Couldn't hear him. Could not hear him. Walked into the office and Jake's like, hey, did you see the Pac-12's first YouTube stream doesn't have audio. I was like, yeah, I was trying to watch and listen.
Because it's garbage.
Sirius XM channel, I think it's 371. Yeah, they didn't stream it live. The Pac-12 Sirius XM channel did not stream George Kliavkoff's press event live.
How?
You had two dudes talking about absolutely nothing that was of consequence, and you can hear it a little bit in the background, George Kliavkoff talking. Like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah.
What? Just copy what the Big 12 and the SEC did the last couple of weeks, and you'd have been fine. But they didn't do that. They didn't do that. And much to Ritson, much to your point here, it's amazing how these events, there are logistics. I get it. They're not hard to execute. Put your stars on stage and point a camera at them and make sure the microphone works. A la Messi with Apple TV MLS.
Yeah.
Introducing Lionel Messi. Yeah, no audio. George Kliavkoff, perhaps the single most important press event he's ever done. The audio didn't work on their first YouTube stream. It's completely and utterly incompetent that this goes on.
Yeah.
And I say this, and I don't know if you can tell, and you probably don't give a damn. This is frustrating to me. It's upsetting to me. I'm disappointed because this league deserves better.
Yeah.
These institutions, whether you're a flyover guy or a truck stop guy, I don't care who you are. There's no denying that these 10 remaining institutions deserve better. These are fantastic universities run by really smart academias who just have no idea what to do with sports.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I don't even know how to, it's like that person that you just hand a baby to who's never held a child before. That's what it looks like to me. Like this kid is shitting himself all over your lap and you don't know how to fix it.
Yeah.
Because you have all these brilliant academic people and you can't get them together on athletics. Like Kurt Schultz at Washington State, by all accounts, is a pretty smart human being. Just get him away from athletics.
Dude, seriously.
Because he's running them into the ground.
Yeah.
And now he's in charge of the conference. He is the chairman.
Untrained eye.
He is, absolutely it is. He's the chairman of the Pac-12 board of directors. And who's he reporting to or talking with? George Kliavkoff, who today left no doubt about his incompetence. This conference deserves better. You have Tessier Levine at Stanford having to resign over questions about his ethics.
Brutal.
And he's on the Pac-12 board of directors until August. He will now have to resign over that. You have President Cosse at Washington, who I don't think gives a two shits about sports, if we're being honest. I don't think she cares.
Nah.
Okay, we'll move her off the board of directors and we'll elevate Bobby Robbins.
But that was just standard protocol. That wasn't a choice.
Put anybody.
Right?
And it's not that Bobby Robbins at Arizona, the president at Arizona, is incompetent or a bad dude or dumb or really excellent educator, administrator, and one of the most vocal proponents of the quality and the footprint. He really likes the footprint of the Big 12. He likes the power basketball brand of the Big 12.
Yeah.
And he has some affinities for the Big 12.
Yeah.
Let's put that guy on the board of directors.
I want it.
Come on, man. Like, come on.
That's what I say.
Like, get out of your own way.
That's what I say. Like when we talk about, hey, is the conference going to survive or what's the long-term outlook? That's why sometimes I have some reservations because everywhere you look, it seems like there's not really much positivity happening in this conference.
I'm just so frustrated with it, man. I'm so frustrated with it. B gives us $5 to say Pac-12 commissioner is either lying or he's incompetent, maybe both. Dude, yes. Yeah.
Don't lie to me.
That's the whole yes. That's the whole comment. Zach Sloter, what's up, Zach? Good to see you. $5 to say the longer the Pac-12 goes without a media deal, the better things will get. Right. I actually think that's true at this point.
Wow.
Because now it's drug on so long, it's been more than a calendar year that the media industry is almost changed completely. The way that the stuff going on at NBC, Universal, and Comcast, the changes happening at ESPN and Disney, like you look at the major players, look at the formation of Scripps Sports. Ion TV, owned by Scripps, they form Scripps Sports. Look at their groundbreaking deal with the WNBA. Look at their groundbreaking deal with the Las Vegas Golden Knights.
Yeah.
Like, look at Bally Sports going out of business, losing their ass in Arizona. The AT&T Sportsnet no longer exists. The regional sports network, dead. The game is changing. It's going to stream. You look at the way NBA teams are distributing their stuff. Look at the Yankees. Look at Yes Network. Furthermore, look at MSG.
Yeah.
MSG offering the Knicks and the Rangers, and I can't remember who the third team is, but Knicks and the Rangers on an app that you can pay per game to watch. The game is changing. So you've been without a deal for over a year now that you've been trying to get a new deal. So the market, just by stupid luck, now is kind of coming around to where maybe you can make a deal that's more than $20 million per year per school. Maybe. So I know, Sloter, that sounds stupid, but I don't think they planned it this way. Let's not get carried away and say, well, we planned to just wait the market out. No, you didn't. You wanted this deal done with Fox and ESPN, which was never going to happen in your exclusive window. That's when you wanted it done. You had no idea the market was going to change. Now, is it better to be lucky than good? Sure. Sure it is in this situation.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. But yeah, I think the longer it's gone on, especially since I would say Q2 here in 2023, right? The second 3 months of the year here, I think the game changed dramatically.
Yeah.
And I think, again, you look at ESPN with Pat McAfee. The sports talk game is changing dramatically. Sports talk radio is dying in this country. Dying. Yet you look at Pat McAfee, he's going to ESPN. Now they're building around Pat McAfee and they're laying people off and they're hiring more staff to support. But look at what College Game Day has changed. Completely changed.
Yep, caught the fat.
The game is changing. That's what George said. I believe him, don't you? LOL, go Cyclones. There you go. OG Gary, what's up, Gary? Ran some back of the teleprompter calculations.
Oh, okay.
Back of the
envelope calculations.
That's so good, Gary. And carrying the zero a few digits, show a deal will be done in year 1751 after the rapture.
Okay, see? Damn. See, maybe we need to have Gare Bear on the show to kind of bring us into the back of the teleprompter side of things.
Yeah, so we were just off by a couple of thousand years. Our bad.
Yeah, that's why George was stuttering so much, because, the calculations were tough.
That's hysterical. But back of the envelope calculations is one of the most infamous.
Back of the envelope calculations.
That's one of the most infamous things that have ever been said by George.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Emma in ZZ World gives us $2 to say GK is shy Ronnie. He pissed himself. Well,
I guess.
Dude, you could see him. Watch his face when he got into it with James Crapia. Watch his face here.
I don't want the opportunity to be missed today to talk about football. We're not announcing a media deal on purpose today because I want the focus to be on football.
George, just to follow on what you just said, I think a response ago, because it caught a lot of people's attention very quickly. You just said you're not announcing a deal today on purpose because you want the attention to be on football.
Yep.
To be clear, that would imply that the deal is done and codified and just you're waiting until after today.
I think you're reading too much into that.
So then what is the purpose behind not announcing something, which is what you just said?
We want to have the focus on football today. We have an incredibly good football story to tell, and we want that to be the focus today.
And I have to say, it's not, the opportunities are few and far between to give the media credit. My guy right here, and I hope he's ever heard of us. I have no idea. James Crepia, huge kudos, bro. Great question.
It's why we need journalists, because understanding what the phrase on purpose means, that means you are intentionally not announcing a TV deal. On purpose, we are not announcing the TV deal today to keep the focus on football. Oh, so just let me clarify. You have a TV deal. What is the purpose of you not announcing it? Nah, you're reading too much into it. Well, you did say you purposefully, so you had a purpose for not announcing your new TV deal.
So you have a deal, and there's a purpose why you're not announcing it.
Yeah.
That's what that means.
And George couldn't answer the question.
Owned.
Just a rowdy dude from South Carolina.
South Carolina.
Gives us $5 to say, should the PAC 8 just add Tulane and Rice in addition to SMU and San Diego State? I think after Colorado and Arizona leave, that'd be the best move. But I'm telling you, and there's a lot of people out there who are like, oh, Arizona and Colorado are gone. Dude, I'm just going to say it again because all the Utah fans that are always pissed off about something on Twitter who are like, oh, I'll say again what I've said for months and months. There's not a president in this league who is excited to leave the Pac-12.
No.
Now, that's very different than there's not a president in this league that won't leave. I think every single one of the 10 remaining presidents and chancellors, if they had their perfect scenario, would stay in the Pac-12. I have no doubt about that.
Yeah.
That does not mean all 10 will stay. And I'm not, at this point, because I truly, for the first time this week, do not know if they have a deal or not. Because I just can't believe that Kliavkoff is going to sit up there, even in his worst incompetence,
Right.
and say on purpose, I am not announcing the TV deal today. Like, how do you make that mistake, dude?
And some people were wondering if it was a mistake or if it was intentional.
I'm telling you, it was just one of those phrases that people throw out. Well, I am on purpose not announcing a TV deal today. And I think what goes through your head is like, oh,
Yeah.
because as soon as he said that, we were sitting there watching it live and we were like, whoa, what?
This is a code 10 abort.
What did and not being there is difficult because we're sitting there like, oh man, ask somebody, because I would have raised my hand and asked the question, right? And that's where James Crapia from the Oregonian came in, and I think he crushed it.
Yeah.
Now, I wish other people would have asked better questions. They did not.
Yeah.
I think this was one of those ones where think of the grammatical error that everybody always makes, supposedly versus supposedly.
It's 2 and 2.
Or, yeah.
There
like,
and there.
Exactly. They are and there. Like, I think he just tossed out on purpose to try and like it's quite literally. Like, I just think he threw it out. Like, he just spoke it. And at that point, like, hey, man, the bird flew away. Can't get it back in a cage here, bro.
I think he tries to overtalk. That's what I think. I think he tries to sound too professional in what he's saying. Instead, like, hey,
but why
we're
is that?
on purpose not doing something.
Instead of not saying just say, hey, I'm not going to talk about this. And the problem is he wasn't asked a question. He just was bloviating.
Yeah, which is where he gets in trouble.
Because he's not a good speaker.
How did he produce the back of the envelope calculations iconic statement? By bloviating.
Bloviating
Right?
off the top of
Back of the envelope calculations.
Dibs gives us $5. This story is steadily moving away from a lack of media deal to levels of incompetent leaders. It's very sad. It is.
It is.
Because if you look at incompetent leaders, how do you ever recover from this if you're San Diego State? Because George Kliavkoff today just said he's never invited you to join the league.
But then what did San Diego State's players say last week?
Their all-world tight end said, yeah, we've been told it 18 months ago. And, oh, by the way, I would just go back to the letter that San Diego State wrote to the Mountain West, where they straight up said in this letter, if you look at this, remember this letter. This is the infamous letter now.
Mm-hmm.
Discuss the exit fee. B, with regard to the timing of the payout such that a 4-year installment period may be considered, because look at number 1, discuss notice requirement, 1-month extension given unforeseen delays involving other collegiate athletic conferences beyond our control. By the way, I would also then, and I'll say by the way 1,000 times, by the way, I would also then go back to the athletic director, J.D. Wicker,
Oh, yeah.
who's refused to come on the show to address the bullshit he spoke into the world with Seth Davis at The Athletic when J.D. Wicker said, hey, we're leaving San Diego State, the athletic director at San Diego State. We're leaving. Yeah, I don't know where we're going, whether the Big 12 or the Pac-12, but we're going somewhere. Oh, it turns out you're not going somewhere. And if you are, now it's going to cost you $34 million. And that doesn't even get near Adela De La Torre, the president at San Diego State, who wants the pro rata she deserves. So who's incompetent now? And what this tells me is you've got to hire the very best people. George Kliavkoff's not that guy.
No.
J.D. Wicker at San Diego State, not that guy.
Larry Scott, not that guy.
Larry Scott, not that guy. Adela De La Torre at San Diego State, the president, not that guy, pal. Not that guy. Brett Yormark's that guy. Commissioner Sankey, that guy. Right? You look at the way that organizations run, the very best organizations don't hire bad people to surround them with. And that's exactly what has happened here. You don't hire Kurt Schultz to surround George Kliavkoff and Kurt Schultz. Can you imagine?
So I said, yeah.
Can you imagine the people they're hiring?
Bro.
Like, how bad is this? And if George Kliavkoff is this bad of a leader, who's on his staff? Who's his chief? Like, you have to question the people around them. Because this is not, and I agree with the prior comment, this is not some simple little accident. No, friends. This is pure. And worse than that, it's not even that it's not an accident. This today was very intentional. This is exactly what you did to yourself. You put yourself, George, in this position. That's even worse that intentionally you did this. And it makes you incompetent. Because if we had George Kliavkoff sitting here today and I said to him, did you misspeak when you said on purpose? Was that a misspeak? He'd say no. I guarantee it, he would say no.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's been the Pac-12's precise problem the whole time, right? They're not willing to
Totally
set
agree.
their pride aside. And I think one final note on this, too, before we get to more comments, that J.D. Wicker thing, as bad as that was for San Diego State, we saw almost a mirror image of that at Arizona with Jed Fisch. Jed Fisch damn near said the same thing.
Yeah,
right?
Shockingly, if you go back to what Jed Fisch said, it's
the same thing.
Remarkably similar. Jed Fisch, the football coach at Arizona, was on a podcast a couple of weeks ago and was asked about Arizona leaving the conference. And the guy hosting the podcast said to Jed Fisch, hey, I know you can't answer this question, but I have to ask it. I know you can't answer it. Is Arizona leaving the Pac-12?
Arizona's going to have a place to go. And that's what I tell our recruits.
Be all right.
That's what I tell our donors. That's what I tell our families of current personnel. We have a great brand. And we have a great basketball program, we have a great softball program, a great baseball program, and I believe we have the opportunity to have an incredible football program.
Yeah.
We're fine.
Yeah.
Where we play our road games, we'll wait and see for our president. But we are locked in and loaded for this season, and we're going to try to just be where our feet are, which is right now in the Pac-10.
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 Dude, you see how similar that is? So my point with that
Oh my God.
that, hey, dude,
Wild.
if you are that guy and you're a P5 and you're at Arizona and you have a pile that's head high of Fs you don't give, you can say that type of thing. J.D. Wicker at a group of 5 school in the Mountain West making $4 million a year plus a little bit of extra change should not be running his mouth to Seth Davis at The Athletic about we'll be somewhere and then have George Kliavkoff stand up here in the conference that you said you wanted to go to and make a buffoon of himself. That's my problem with San Diego State.
It is remarkable. Remarkable. The Monty Show, presented by our good friends at Bucked Up Energy. Bucked Up Energy, the official energy drink of the Monty Show. And maybe I'm so perturbed today because somebody...
I can get up and get you Miami. You want Miami?
Somebody didn't give me a buckshot today.
Well, we're out.
So I didn't go by the Bucked Up Energy store on my way into the crib today and get more buckshot. But you should absolutely do that. What you should do is get into the description of this show below. Click on the link that's going to get you a free sample of buckshot. I'm telling you guys, it makes all the difference in the world. Cannot wait. 24 hours from now, I will have finished 18 holes of golf, and it will have been amazing, and I will have pounded a buckshot to get me through it. You guys, it's clean, long-lasting energy. It gives you a mental lift, and it really gets you through that tough part of the day, especially on a Friday. You don't want to be working right now. You want to be at home. You want to be on the golf course. You want to be chilling with George Kliavkoff while, making yourself look good.
Yeah, you want to make back of the teleprompter calculations after you drink buckshot.
Back of the buckshot calculations and stuff.
Yeah.
Get your free buckshot in the description below. Click the link. They'll send 6 buckshots right to your front door for free. Make sure you tell them you heard about it on the Monty Show. Bucked Up Energy, the official energy provider of the Monty Show. Okay, let me shut my mouth because you guys have been amazing today. More of your comments, and a big shout out to Shooter, Texas.
Let's go.
Shooter. Shooter, Texas, the newest member of the Monty Show, the Monty Militia. Well, I probably shouldn't say that, but if you want to become a member of the show, it's $1.99 a month. Gets all your comments read. Oh, by the way, you want to get into the members-only Instagram chat where we talk about all this stuff offline, 24 hours a day, $9.99 a month. All you got to do is click the join button, select your membership tier, and you're good to go, like Shooter Texas did. Shooter, good to see you. And this comment right here, I still think is amazing.
Yeah.
I think you're exactly right. That it's moving away from a lack of a media deal to level of incompetence.
Yes.
Unbelievable. Carson gives us $4.99 to say PAC was too arrogant, then flat-footed, now held hostage by its own members. Lesson learned, the possibility of failure always has to be an option. Indeed it does. Exactly right. Brass Balls, what's up with you, my guy? I couldn't resist the chance to show how smart I am. It's better to just say nothing and thought a fool than open your mouth and remove all doubt.
I mean, that's a great point. The problem is, though,
yes.
The problem is that as a commissioner of a conference, before this, I thought you could choose not to speak because he chose not to speak since December. But you roll up on your media day, and there is a sense of pressure. I mean, I have to admit, like, this was a big moment. This was something where it was like, hey, because you haven't spoken on this since December, you need to perform today. Like, flat out, no doubt about it, you got to come in here and give a great opening speech, and then don't make an idiot of yourself. And yet, what did you figure out a way to do? Let me get this right. So the speech itself, the way it was written, was not horrible, not great, but not horrible. But you were stumbling quite a bit. You were choking on the words a lot. And then the media thing happened. And I just, before the show, we were talking about the fact that, like, we really work hard on this show not to just have a bashing fest and not to just, like, hate on people and, like, make it negative all the time, because I think that burns people out. I get burned out listening to that. But we're not really left in any other position here. Like, I'm trying to figure out what was the positive out of Media Day? What is the story? Because I can tell you with Big 12 Media Day, dude, the headlines were, outside of players and individual programs, the headline was, hey, they're going to be in Dallas till 2031 with Big 12 Media Days. The championship game is going to continue to be held at Jarrett World till 2031 as well. As part of the championship game, they're going to have a Super Bowl-like halftime performance, like all this great stuff. And then Pac-12 comes around, and I can't tell you what the positive spin out of Pac-12 Media Day is outside of what my guy here said, which is Caleb Williams shaved his head, doesn't have the fro anymore, which is unfortunate because that thing was amazing. And Cam Rising said that he wants to play BYU as much as possible, and BYU fans are complaining, and Utah fans are bitching at BYU fans. Like, that's what Media Day was. And maybe a little Lincoln Riley.
Yeah, and I just think that it's unfortunate because Kyle Whittingham may be the happiest guy in the country right now because there's no talk about how good Utah is.
Yeah.
Picked him third. He loved that. Everything's good. But other than that, Lincoln Riley ought to be pissed. Caleb Williams ought to be pissed. And this is why they're leaving. Because I think if you are Caleb Williams and Lincoln Riley, you got absolutely buried today. Somehow, some way. What I think is arguably one of the best schools in the conference. It, like, is gone already. We know that.
Yeah.
But on the way out the door, inarguably, USC is one of the best football teams in the country this year. And we're not talking about that. Caleb Williams has a real chance to win back-to-back Heisman trophies. We're not talking about that. That's the real problem here. We're not talking about, hey, who's going to replace DTR at UCLA? Hey, what about Jaden DeLora and the prepared statement he read and the support that Arizona has shown Jaden DeLora? We're not talking about that. We're not talking about the juggernaut in Seattle, year 2 in their offense, and the fact that, well, damn, maybe Washington's the best team in the conference. We're not talking about that.
Yeah.
We're talking about the incompetence of the commissioner again. That's what we're talking about. Fat Jesus, my guy, gives us $5. I am purposefully not chatting about my vibrant sex life today because I want to focus to be on this show. By the way, it's National Junk Food Day. Topic for later. Oh,
He has our full respect.
it is.
Yes, it is.
absolutely a topic for later. His vibrant sex life.
Yes.
Appreciate you. Tony Walashin. I hope I got that right. I am not about a media deal on media day. Signed, George Kliavkoff. Exactly
Hey.
right. Corey Erickson, Pac-12 quote-unquote leadership has treated its members very poorly beyond the fans and everyone else. The students deserve better. And my struggle on this is specifically, this should be a powerhouse of a conference.
Yeah.
And now you have multiple schools in this conference that don't believe there should be expansion. Multiple members don't believe there should be expansion. You have a commissioner that is purposefully withholding TV deals. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's absolutely ridiculous now. Cowboy Country. George Kliavkoff is playing kick the can. Time for Arizona State, CU, and Utah to come to the Big 12. Utah is a great football team. Arizona's best men's basketball in the West.
I don't know that he's playing kick the can, bro. I think he's playing do the best job that I can do and just survive. Like, that's it.
I think he is trying to make people believe there's a media deal. Because, again, I've spent 2 days trying to find a source who will tell me what the media deal is.
Yeah.
And I don't have a single TV industry source who says they know what the TV deal is or that they're involved.
Well, and usually, like, when you're working in the sourcing world, when people know how to say yes, there's a TV deal without saying yes, there's a TV deal, right? Like, you get very clear answers like, yeah, I can't really talk about that. You're gonna have to wait till next week. Well, that would lend me to believe there's a TV deal, but that's not what anyone was saying. People were like literally saying, hey, yeah, I don't know anything about that. I haven't heard anything to the contrary.
But what's the other thing you're not hearing? The other thing you're not hearing is from Pac-12 sources, and we've got a bunch. And they don't want to talk. They haven't wanted to talk for the last 10 days. This conference, and to their credit, there's been a lid dropped on this conference, as there should have been 6 months ago.
Yeah, wow.
Because all these presidents and athletic directors and, again, the San Diego State disaster, all of that stuff should never have happened.
Yeah.
Should never have happened. You can't have the chancellor going after Twitter bot accounts at Colorado, right? You can't have them doing that. It's just so crazy to me that Mark Harlan, the athletic director at Utah, is having to call people out on Twitter. You can't be doing that.
Yeah.
This conference needs to zip it until George Kliavkoff is ready to announce the Pac-12's new media rights deal. Nobody should say word one. Yet, I have to believe they will. I have to believe they will. And it's really unfortunate.
Yeah.
Because it shouldn't have to be that way. Emma and ZZ World. I used to think that everything about the Pac-12 was a tragedy, but now I realize it's a comedy of errors.
Yes.
That's the worst part of it. Emma, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
Just a rowdy dude from South Carolina. Monty, what am I missing? If the Pac-12 media deal is $25 million and you're Oregon and the Big Ten offers $75, how do you stay? I think if you're Oregon on your own, you'd have to get a full share to leave. Because I think being a man on an island with USC and UCLA is a very difficult place for Oregon to be. Now, if you're Oregon, Washington, Stanford, and Cal, and you're getting $75 million each, say la vie, you're out. And nobody would blame you for that. First of all, the Big Ten has to want to be the one to pull the chain and knock everybody out, because you get those 4, the Pac-12's dead. And does the Big Ten want to be responsible for killing off the Pac-12? I think that is Tony Petitti is a very intelligent dude.
Yeah.
The commissioner of the Big Ten is a very intelligent dude. Operator, TV guy. Hey, much like Brett Yormark, entertainment guy. They're not stupid. They're not. Notice what was the first thing that Brett Yormark talked about at Big 12 football media days? Hey, I've never mentioned a school. I'm not here to talk about schools. I'm not here to talk about poaching schools.
Yeah.
We're here. And this is what I wanted George Kliavkoff to do today. Steal the script, bro.
Yeah.
Steal the script. I'm not here to talk about TV deals. I know that's what you guys want to talk about. We are singularly focused on the 12 best football programs in the country today.
Yeah.
Those TV conversations and media deal stuff, hey, that's later down the road. Today, we are fully focused on Pac-12 football. That's what the script should have said.
Yeah.
That's what should have been on the prompter. But instead, dummy Mr., quite literally hemorrhaging shit out of your face, George, couldn't help himself.
Yeah.
Couldn't help himself. So nobody talked football. Everybody talked about George, which is exactly why you haven't seen him for 7 months.
And then we're going to sit here and wonder why,
crazy
Utah continues not to get respect nationally, or why other programs in your conference don't get respect nationally.
Hey, man, I'm just telling you, it's really disappointing to me that this happened today.
Yeah.
Big Bad Brass Balls, I can make you smile. I donated to Advocates donations. Thank you very much. That's huge. The Advocates, for everybody watching the show today, and I'm serious, this is a really important deal going on at the Advocates, and they're going to be on the show next week to talk about this. They're working for homeless kids to get back to school. The Advocates are presenting sponsor on the show, the best injury attorneys in the business. They're working with a group called The Road Home. And The Road Home is one of the foremost homeless advocacy groups in the country. And they're working right now to help kids go back to school. And you look at the graphic on the screen. If you have Venmo, I'm begging you. I quite literally am begging you. $1, $10, $1 million, whatever you can do. Just get on Venmo, donate, and say, hey, Monty said homeless kids need help. Or, hey, I heard about you on the Monty Show. That would be awesome. And if you don't want to do that, great. Just give them $2, $5, $10. Because they're talking about homeless kids who don't have things like socks. They're trying to make sure that every homeless kid they come in touch with has multiple pairs of underwear. That's the level we're working at. Never mind a home, a shelter, a place where they can go home every night and do homework or rest well instead of a city park or a car or a van. They're talking about socks and underwear, clothing. Then we'll talk about markers, crayons, pencils, papers, the ability to read, the basic fundamentals of supporting yourself. We're talking about kids in kindergarten, 5th grade, high school, who don't have pants, who don't have shoes, who don't have socks. Imagine going to school when you were in school and you didn't have socks or underwear on. What would that do to your confidence? What would that do when people are snickering at you and you're trying to figure out algebraic, formulas and quadratic equations? You're more worried about your pants because you don't have underwear on. Think about that, man. That's what the Advocates are about. So, hey, I love that you guys are here. I appreciate it. If you can take 2 minutes and Venmo Advocates donations, 100% of it goes to The Road Home to support homeless kids on the Monty Show. Big Bad Brass Balls, I appreciate you. Brad Turner gives us $5 to say, pass it on to the kids, por favor. Will do. Zachary Hardy, won't happen, but Pac-12 just adds San Diego State, Tulane, Rice, and SMU, Boise, Fresno State, or UNLV, and call it a day. See if it sticks at this point. Well, I think the reason that they can't expand, and again, I would love somebody to have asked George Kliavkoff about this, because he was adamant. We are not talking about expansion until the media rights deals are done.
Yeah.
Well, is that because your members won't allow you to expand to get a more valuable media rights deal because they may not stay in the conference? What is the reasoning for waiting to expand until after a media rights deal, or deals, as he said, are done.
Yeah.
Because if the cookie cutter deal that you're supposedly getting, and this is the propaganda that we've heard repeatedly from the Pac-12 and their mouthpieces, you're getting a deal that's far greater than the Big 12. Well, the Big 12's deal is $31 million. Let's call it 32. I think it's 31.7. $32 million with a pro rata from ESPN, which means if you add a P5 school, we'll pay you on par for that P5 school. So if you add Gonzaga, if you add, again, I mean, pick the school, Arizona, Utah, whoever you think it might be in the Pac-12 to the Big 12.
Yeah.
We'll pay you an equal share, ESPN will, for that. So if you don't have a P5 team to add, and by all accounts, and if you've got one and I don't know about it, please let me know.
It's not the best situation, and we all know that.
But San Diego State's not a P5.
Right.
And who's on this list? Tulane's not a P5. Rice isn't a P5. SMU's not. Boise's not. Fresno's not. UNLV is not. So you're going to get all this money. Why not add those teams so that you can bolster your media deal? Oh, that's right, because your 10 members won't approve expansion until they have a media rights deal, because they don't know if they're going to be there or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all that I can say.
Yeah.
It's all that, I mean, that's all that makes sense. Here on the Monty Show, where every single day we tell you on this show that our official pizza of the show is Papa Murphy's Pizza. Make sure you use the promo code Monty25 to go ahead and get yourself the single greatest calzone you've ever had.
At Papa Murphy's, we do more than just pizza. We do calzones.
Papa Murphy's does calzones?
Oh, I think you mean I do the calzones.
And how do you do it, Dad?
How do I do it?
Well, we do it with fresh ingredients and hand-shredded cheese tucked in a scratch-made dough.
That's how, honey.
At Papa Murphy's, we make great pizza.
Hey, don't forget the calzones.
Order now at papamurphys.com.
Papa Murphy's Pizza, the official pizza of the Monty Show. Make sure you use the promo code Monty25. Just download the Papa Murphy's app. Super easy to use. You can absolutely order at 4 a.m. for a 4 p.m. pickup. You name the time you want to pick it up. It'll be ready on the to-go rack. Fresh ingredients. Always the best produce. Always the best cheeses. Always the best meats. Any topping you add, you can count on it being fresh, because you're going to put barbecue sauce. Nobody uses red sauce anymore. Come on, grow up.
Yeah.
We're not kids anymore, sir.
Be better.
But your pizza dough is always fresh made in-house. They always roll it in-house. They always build it in-house just for you. So you always get the freshest ingredients with the best pizza at Papa Murphy's Pizza. Hello, everybody. Good to see you on the Monty Show. Coming up in 13 minutes. Is that correct?
Yes.
Alema Harrington will join us to talk Big 12 football and BYU football. Alema played at BYU, so we'll get that. Dibs gives us $20 to say, George says, I'm purposely not going to present a media deal that doesn't exist. I also am not going to present an expansion plan that I didn't want anyone to know about, but the curtains here really are lovely. I'll take your questions now.
Well played.
Yeah, seriously. Well played. Just a Rowdy Guy gives us $5 to say the $400 million loss Pac-12 delivered to Fox won't go away and cast a long, dark shadow over any media rights deal negotiations. Bad return on investment. But again, every time we talk about this,
yeah,
I go back to the decision. Well, you know what? BYU, we don't want the Mormons.
Those damn Mormons.
We love our caffeine and we play on Sunday. Like their decision not to add BYU, and not only not to add BYU, to look down their noses at BYU. I will fight to my death to tell you that's why the Pac-12 is where it is.
Yes.
Because if you had added BYU, you would likely have a deal with ESPN, because everybody and their brother is well aware that if you put BYU on TV, you're getting 1 million viewers.
Yeah.
You're getting 1 million viewers, man. And you look at some of the numbers are out on the size of these fan bases. Have you guys asked yourself, who has the largest fan base in college football? Who has it? Well, I mean, it's not rocket science to tell you that Ohio State.
Excuse me.
Oh, I'm sorry. The Ohio State has the largest fan base in college football. I mean, that's not even like, is there anybody that doubts that? Is there anybody that questions that? Because I got to be honest with you, looking at these formulas, it's not close. Number 2, the University of Michigan. Penn State 3, I don't know about that. Duke 4, Duke basketball, absolutely. Florida State 5, Alabama 6, Georgia 7th, UCLA.
But wait, I thought they couldn't fill up the stadium.
UCLA 8th, Notre Dame 9th, Wisco 10th. And then you get into this list and it goes a little deeper. But outside of UCLA, like LSU is 11th, Texas is 12th, right? You get down the list a little bit. Oklahoma is 18th. Georgia Tech is 20th.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm looking like, where's Oregon? USC is 25th. Well, I see Maryland at 29th. There's Rutgers and Auburn, and there's Oregon at 37th. What? Oregon, the supposed power of the Pac-12, is 37th, dude.
Yeah.
37th.
Yeah, bro.
Do you believe that is the case? Or do you think there may be some bias in
I
this?
mean, I think there's some bias in it, but I what I can tell you is what I see, which is that Autzon's always full and Oregon's always competing in the college football playoff.
But Oregon State is ahead of Oregon, which I have a little trouble with.
Yeah.
At 36th. And Oklahoma State is 38th.
The Mike Gundys.
The Mike Gundy Mullets.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to me, right? I just look at this. This is the first time, by the way, that Alabama's fallen out of the top 5. But I think it's really interesting that these are the most popular college football teams in the United States.
Yeah.
And I think the spread of their fan bases is pretty remarkable. And this is polling from fans who watched or attended college football games in 2022. The respondents, the people who replied, were asked to list their favorite college teams based on results. SBR Net produced the numbers that you're looking at. And it's pretty remarkable. I don't think Ohio State is even a question.
No, I mean, if I didn't know any of these numbers, right, and you were just like, hey, what do you think the biggest fan bases in college football are? Ohio State is definitely top of the list. I mean,
yes.
By anybody's stretch of the imagination, they're a top 3 fan base, no doubt about it. And I think most people would have them number 1, just because I just think when you look at popularity and success on field, they're printing. I think programs like Alabama wasn't good before Nick Saban was there. The problem is Nick Saban's been there long enough now where an entire generation only knows Nick Saban for Alabama and not his time in Miami or whatever, right? Like people just don't know about that.
Totally agree.
So I think the fan bases are changing. So to me, yeah, I would probably have Ohio State, Michigan. I would be inclined to add a dark horse program out of the Midwest. Maybe did you already say Nebraska or something like that on there? Like that's where I'd probably go if I didn't know the numbers.
But there's really nobody on this list that is shocking.
Yeah.
Maybe Duke. But look at the poll at number 4 that Duke has across the country. I mean, significant. That's not surprising with Coach K being from Chicago.
Yeah.
And like there's nobody on this list that's surprising. What is surprising is that teams like USC, like Utah's 57th on the list.
Yeah.
But for my money, the question is, when I look at, hey, who draws the water in this town and who watches, I think there's a lot of Oregon fans that watch games.
He has our full respect.
I think there's a lot of BYU fans that watch games.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of Utah fans that watch games. And I just think when you look at polling and opinion, it's no surprise to me that the Ohio State is number 1.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. But this conference, I don't think, has the Pac-12, has national poll. It does not. And I look at the Big 12, even after Texas and Oklahoma leave, the Big 12 is still a far superior conference to the Pac-12.
Well, and I think what's tough when you think about like the everyday football fan, like think about an East Coaster, someone who lives in Boston or maybe in Virginia or whatever, even in Miami, up and down the East Coast. They're having to go backwards in time as far as watching football, right? So, you know, you get the ACC first, obviously, out there. But are you really on a Saturday night? Are you really staying in to watch Oregon if you live in Boston? Are you really staying in to watch even Will Howard and K-State? Right? Like, are you, or are you going to go out and have a good time and then you're going to come home and flip ESPN back on? That's like the natural living habits of people, I think, need to be taken into consideration here. Because again, if you live on the West Coast, the beautiful thing about it is you can get up early and you're just watching games all day comfortably because it's in your flow. But it's backwards for East Coasters. They're having to chase it. And that's what I think people don't consider when you think about timeline. So is it any surprise that the biggest fan bases in college football are straight out of the middle cut of our country, geographically speaking? No, it's not a surprise. Right? When Ohio State's dominating, NBC's coverage or Fox or whatever on any given Saturday, who's surprised by that? They're right in the middle of the country. Everybody can watch them. And I guarantee you, a 10-year-old kid who knows nothing about college football, if they see Ohio State on and, they get married up to what was C.J. Stroud, well, they're going to want to watch C.J. next week and the week after and the week after that. That's how fans are built. So that's why it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, and it shouldn't be surprising. And I just think when you look at this conference today, today is the day where the Pac-12 had the entire country as a captive audience.
Yeah.
And it just went sideways on them. I don't know. So maybe today's the right day to ask, what do you think happens here? Let's go in stages. Does the Pac-12 survive?
I think they survive, but I'm not confident they survive in 10 teams. I think that this media deal, or as George said, deals. Once those come through and teams start making decisions, I just can't believe that a perfect world scenario plays out because I don't think we're in a perfect world situation.
I think the conference, without a doubt, survives. There's no question in my mind the Pac-12 will survive. I can't see it being these 10 teams unless they somehow pull off a deal, $25 million or more.
Yeah.
I think you keep all 10 at that number. If it's less than that, I think you lose Colorado and probably Arizona. It's just my opinion.
But again, what comes in if Arizona goes? Arizona State.
Arizona State's a big part of that. But let's just say Arizona and Colorado. Okay. I think the Pac-12 survives.
Mm-hmm.
How many schools do you think? Because I really think Colorado's the one that, if I had to pick a school, for obvious reasons, I think Colorado's the one that leans the furthest towards the Big 12.
Sure, yeah.
But after today, I just have so little confidence that the Pac-12 can execute. Man, when you have the whole country watching you and you make a mistake of this magnitude and you have a reporter. And I'm going to play this bite. Alema Harrington's going to join us here in just a moment. But I want to play this bite one more time because if you're just tuning in the show and I see everybody here, I look at this exchange that George Kliavkoff, the commissioner of the Pac-12, had with James Crapia from the Oregonian. I just can't believe George said it.
I don't want the opportunity to be missed today to talk about football. We're not announcing a media deal on purpose today because I want the focus to be on football.
George, just to follow on what you just said, I think a response ago, because it caught a lot of people's attention very quickly. You just said you're not announcing a deal today on purpose because you want the attention to be on football.
Yep.
To be clear, that would imply that the deal is done and codified and just you're waiting until after today.
I think you're reading too much into that.
So then what is the purpose behind not announcing something, which is what you just said?
We want to have the focus on football today. We have an incredibly good football story to tell, and we want that to be the focus today.
Yeah, then why did you bring it up?
Yeah, I think it's tough, dude.
He walked himself. I can't. I just can't believe it. And it's why when you come out of a thing like we were in Dallas at Big 12 Football Media Day last week, flawless.
Yeah.
You had nobody step on their tongues. Like you had nobody like melt down. And he had a teleprompter in front of him. And he still misspoke about the TV deal. It's amazing. Let's get Alema Harrington. TryDayTrading.com presents Alema Harrington on the Monty Show. Alema, how surprised are you that the Pac-12 finds itself where it is? Is it at all surprising to you?
Well, you think of all the missteps that they've had along the way, and so you're not necessarily surprised by it, but you expect the people that are representing your conference to get up there and make statements that make your conference look good, and that did not happen for the Pac-12. And unfortunately for the Pac-12, it's been going in the wrong direction for them, which, I don't know. There's probably some BYU fans that feel good about that because, they're not a part of that and all of those things. But at the same time, those are opportunities, and especially in a day and age that we live in today, where everything goes viral almost immediately. You make those kinds of statements, and you got egg on your face, and everybody gets to see it.
I think it's funny, Alema, being in Dallas and seeing the jubilation from the crew from BYU, and talking to Kalani. We had a great conversation with Kalani last week about the importance of this moment in time for BYU. I think it worked out perfectly, and all the consternation and all the pressure, the disappointment, the pain, just the emotional damage at one point that BYU fans and people at BYU went through, not being able to get into the Pac-12, not being able to after chasing for so long, and you still can't get a Big 12 invite. Now it feels like for BYU fans, you played football at BYU. You are very close to that program. You know this. I feel like this has worked out perfectly for BYU.
And, sometimes the lessons that we learn in life are not easy, and one of those is patience. And BYU has been patient, and they've done their part. You can't just be patient and wait around for the right thing to happen. You've got to actively be participating in the things that you can control. And for BYU, Tom Homo specifically, that means you got to really, grind to put together a schedule that is appealing and relevant and independence. And BYU fans might be, disillusioned thinking, oh, we're independent, we're like Notre Dame, but nobody is Notre Dame. So BYU had a lot of work that had to be done in the era of independence to be able to be at the doorstep, now inside the door of the Big 12. So I give Tom Homo and his crew and Kalani Sitake and even going back to Bronco Mendenhall, all the credit in the world that they were able to power through independence, which is a very difficult task to be able to get to the point where they are now, and not just be invited into the Big 12, but as you guys were there, I think you can attest to this, received very well at Big 12, almost like this was meant to be. And it was a long time coming, and there's a lot of patience involved. But when you look at where BYU is now, they are ready for this opportunity, because it would have been easy to, just try to, make your way in independence, and then you stay independent for the rest of your lives, and nothing ever happens because you haven't earned it. Now, BYU has earned this opportunity, and I think that they're prepared and ready. I'm not going to say to make a splash in the Big 12. It's going to take some time, and there's going to be some patience still on the horizon for BYU and BYU fans. But the anticipation has been palpable, and I was part of this big countdown to the Big 12 with BYU that was live streamed and on their social media, and we had thousands that were present going into midnight as the official membership took place. And just the excitement surrounding all of that, and then everything that I was able to observe from Big 12 media days. And you think about all the years, right, of this independence where you're doing your own media day and you're not part of a conference, to be able to execute it the way that they did at the Big 12 in Texas, in this conference that has opened their arms and really welcomed BYU in. But that's only because, in my opinion, BYU is deserving of that. And now you got to prove it on the field, but BYU has prepared themselves well.
Well, and I don't even think it's about sports. It's about the fact that you have Cosmo, the best mascot in all of college sports. And I think it's finally time that we stop talking about football and we start talking about this great mascot who was a home run, Alema. He was, Jake, you were there too. He was the hit of Big 12. Like the other Cougars chasing him around.
Houston.
Like, yeah, it was, you're exactly right that there was an excitement across the conference. Everybody we had on the show last week, from UCF to, I mean, you name it, everybody, Baylor, like they were all talking about, hey, BYU, like the history, the tradition and all of that. But I don't know. I think one of the other things real quick I want to ask you about is Kalani Sitake. As we talk to Alema Harrington, thanks to our friends at TryDayTrading.com. And before I ask you about Kalani, I know you're a tremendous advocate. I know you know the programs in and out at TryDayTrading.com. Why is TryDayTrading.com such a great opportunity for everybody watching this show right now?
Well, I got to tell you, my family and I were just overseas and we're on a trip. And one of the interesting things that hit me was the strength of the dollar overseas right now, which is not great. And the things that you can actively be participating in. And people wonder sometimes when we're talking about day trading, what does that mean? And we're talking about Forex. And so we're talking about foreign exchange. And that's a big part of the things that I'm involved with. And some people get very anxious when it comes to what's going on with the financial world. And the good news, in my opinion, with Tri-Day Trading is the things that they're able to teach you to do kind of relieve that anxiety and that stress that surrounds what's going on in the monetary markets. Because when things are volatile in the monetary markets, it's actually a good thing for day traders because they're in and out and they're making deals. And so you're able to capitalize on what otherwise would be a turbulent time. And so that just struck me while I was, overseas, understanding too, that if you are somebody that is day trading, so for me, all I need is a Wi-Fi connection and I can be at work, whether it's for an hour or a couple of hours a day. If I'm at home, obviously, the hours are a little bit different and you can get up in the morning and do this before your regular job if you're transitioning, and you can have it start to replace some of your income and then get to the point where it becomes your main source of income. But even if it's like I got a vacation fund or I need to get some extra money to pay for my cars or my mortgage, these are things that are very doable with TryDayTrading.com. And I talk about it all the time. And the interesting thing, I think, for me with TryDayTrading.com is that you can try the program for 30 days for just a $10 donation. That's a donation. Now you got some skin in the game, but it's not going in Tri-Day Trading's pockets. That is going to a designated charity on a monthly basis. And all you do is commit $10 and you have access to all of the resources for 30 days. And you may hear something that I say and think, you know what, I'm interested enough to go to the website, TryDayTrading.com, maybe watch a couple of videos there and pique my interest and then get on to a coaching call. These are all things that are very doable. And the only thing that is required of you is going to be a willingness to put some work in and a $10 donation. So if you're hearing me talk about this, and many have heard me talk about it over and over, and sometimes it takes, a number of different times. And finally, you're like, you know what? I'm just going to jump on that website and check it out. I encourage you to do that. That's the same thing that I did. I heard about it doing some radio stuff, and I was doing a live remote at Tri-Day Trading, and I met Ryan Van Dorn, who is one of the principals there, and it just made sense to me. And all I had to do was explore it and then get connected with coaches. And a person like me who's not, mathematically inclined or even financially inclined for that matter, I was able to understand and grasp with the help of my coach who worked with me personally to help me understand what we were doing, how we were doing, understanding the vocabulary. All of those things you can do in 30 days. And all it's going to take is a $10 donation to trydaytrading.com and you are on your way. And the beautiful thing about it, again, in my opinion, is they are so confident in this program, the proprietary software and the coaching that you will get, that you're going to be successful, that they are going to fund an account for you to trade, and you will keep up to 80% of what you make. That's a deal that I can't think of anywhere else, that they are that confident in their product, and for good reason, because I've been involved with this now going on 5 years. They're confident because this thing works.
Yeah. And all you have to do is take a step. $10 to see what your future can be. Hook it up at trydaytrading.com. And like Alema said, just go watch some videos. If you're skeptics, don't take his word. Don't take my word for it. I tell you about it every day. Go watch some videos and make a decision for $10 in a charitable donation. Go see what your future can be. Speaking of futures, let me ask you about Kalani Sitake, because one of the most powerful conversations we had was with Kalani when he was talking about the tribulation and the turbulence he had this offseason. Massive changes on the coaching staff. And he talked about how those are friends of mine. And I think about their families, and I think about their kids, and I think about their careers. And he said, I know it had to be done because BYU and the fan base, they deserve our everything being the best and everything that we can do. And I just think it speaks to the character of Kalani Sitake, and I think that's exactly why he is, if there is such a thing, the perfect fit as the football coach at BYU.
Yeah, I said this on that big countdown show that we had for the Big 12, that the pieces were in place for this to happen. Number one being Tom Homo, needing that athletics director to be at the helm, going from Mountain West Conference into independence into everything that you experienced, not getting invited to the Pac-12, and then finally, the invitation being extended from the Big 12. But he was a necessary personality to make this transition. Secondly, Kalani Sitake is the man for this job. And he had to make some very hard decisions. And Jay Hill being added to this coaching staff, that makes the decision a little bit easier. I had the good pleasure and honor of covering Jay Hill's career at Weber State as their head coach, and the things that he did both as a head coach and a defensive coordinator. He is the right fit for BYU at this time. That doesn't mean that decision of letting Tuiaki go was any easier, especially with the personal relationships that Kalani Sitake has with Tuiaki and his family. But that being said, things were necessary for this to happen and for them to be ready for the Big 12. And I think Jay Hill is a big part of that.
Yeah, it's exciting because when you have somebody that's got, and the right word is courage, and I know everybody's going to say I'm shining Kalani or whatever, that was a courageous move. I mean, you let go of a personal friend, and you played football. I mean, you know the relationships and the intimacy that you build in friendships when you play together and you essentially live your life together. Like when you coach, you're in those rooms and you are grinding together. To have that kind of courage, I don't think we should overlook that, because to look a man in the eye and say, hey, essentially right now, you're just not good enough. This is not good enough. We're not good enough. I've got to make a change with you. Man, that takes that's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah, it's a very difficult thing to do with that personal relationship that you're talking about. And football, you become a family, and beyond the relative relationship, speaking of family, with Kalani and Tuiaki as far as that is concerned, but beyond that, right, the blood, sweat, and tears that bring and bond, people together in the game of football, a very challenging and courageous. I would agree with you. It's a courageous move to be able to look, one of your best friends in the eye and say, hey, man, we've got to go a different direction. And you give Tuiaki credit because he handled it with great grace and did a fine job while he was at BYU, and then understood that it was time to go a different direction. And so those things are difficult and necessary. And those are the places in our lives where, and this is why I love athletics so much, because there's so many lessons that we learn, right, in the game of life that are taught to us by the game of football or whatever sport you might relate this to. And one of those is having to make those difficult decisions. And it takes courage. It takes faith to be able to move forward in that regard. And so I give credit to everybody involved in how that transpired, and Kalani at the helm. And I agree. Kalani is the guy. He is the guy, and I felt this way. And I've known Kalani for a long time, and both as a player when I covered him at BYU, and then our families are close. And my father and Kalani's father were very close. I ran into Kalani's dad at a football camp, and we talked about my father, and there's those relationships are deep, right? And so I've always had an affinity for Kalani. But beyond that, if I'm just trying to do this, without a bias of some sort, which is difficult to do. But if I'm trying to do that, Kalani is the right man for this position, not just because of the kind of coach he is, but beyond that, his history with BYU and his preparation in the process to be where he is today.
Yeah, and by the way, the last thing I'll say is the player interview that was most impressive to me, and we did a bunch. There was a corner at Texas that was amazing, but Keaton Slovis, the quarterback at BYU, there's just something about that dude. He's got an aura about him. He's got a presence about him. And you would expect that from a quarterback from SC, Pitt, and now the guy that's going to be the starting quarterback at BYU. You would certainly expect that. But Keaton Slovis, he has something about him, Alema, that's just, and I don't know how much you've talked to him, but he's a guy that's just got that little it about him.
Yeah, and it's the it factor, and that's not something that you can necessarily coach or teach. Guys are born with that. And BYU being in the position that they were in, right, to be able to attract a talent like Slovis and bring him to BYU. And you take a look at BYU's roster right now. We're talking about 20-plus guys that are coming out of the transfer portal that are going to be a major part of this program this year.
It's wild.
You have to be able to have something both on the field and off the field at Brigham Young University that is going to attract people like that. And sometimes, you wonder, like, how are we, you might sit there and wonder, like, how are we able to pull this thing off? And you get a quarterback like Slovis to come into the program. I think that in some regards is the way that BYU feels. But on the other side, I think that Slovis feels very fortunate to be in the situation that he's in, which is, right, that's the marriage made in heaven right there, when you have both parties that feel like, man, this is a great deal.
Yeah, and without Keaton Slovis, you probably don't keep Cody Epps, and without Cody Epps, you probably don't get Keaton Slovis. So
yeah,
there's absolutely synergy there. Alema, always good to see you. Alema Harrington, presented by our friends at TridayTrading.com. Alema, have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right, guys. Thank you. Always good to be with you.
There you go. Alema Harrington. Love talking football with that dude.
Yes, sir.
And he's exactly right. There is a certain energy. And for those of you who don't know, for our national audience, BYU had an event on the last day of June leading up to midnight of July 1st. And they had people at the stadium, at Lavelle Edwards Stadium, like that. It was a happening. And the fan base is lit. The fan base is excited, engaged, and they always are. BYU fans are fantastic. They watch TV, they travel to games, they spend money on BYU football. Like, it's amazing. But what Alema talked about right there, the excitement, the energy, you can feel it in the community. You can feel it in the BYU community. We certainly felt it with the folks from BYU that were at Big 12 Media Day. So I think the conference is forever changed. And you look at what happened at Pac-12 Media Day today, and I don't want to get too dramatic about it. I truly do not want to get too dramatic about it. But it did not go well for George Kliavkoff.
Right.
There's just, if you just read the reviews, you read the people talking about his exchange with James Crapia from the Oregonian, you just look at these conversations, and then you replay Big 12 Media Days in your mind, and you recognize the different level that the Big 10, the SEC, and the Big 12 are playing on.
Yeah.
And I know I'm a Big 12 homer, Big 12 anon. I
thought you were a Pac-12 guy.
Yeah, I'm the asshole. I totally get it. But if you look at this is why the Pac-12 is so far below.
Yeah.
So far below the other four. And I include the ACC in that. The Pac-12 is at the bottom of the ladder because of this buffoon running this conference.
Mm-hmm.
And George Kliavkoff and the presidents absolutely have accountability in this. But today, George, you let this conference down. Today, George, you let the fan base down. You let your constituents in the conference down. And most of all, You made an ass of yourself.
Right.
Because you looked unprepared. And there's in sports, we usually find ourselves, you're either here or you're there. It's very black and white. You're either incompetent or you were ill-prepared. And, dude, I hope you were not ill-prepared. So all I can think is you're incompetent because you don't make the mistake. And, again, I'll play the bite if you're just tuning into the show today. And, by the way, I see we have over 1,000 comments waiting to be read. I promise you I am coming to you next. But I want to play this bite because I think what we saw at Pac-12 Media Day today was just horrendous. Here is the exchange that Pac-12 Commissioner George Kliavkoff had with James Crapia, the reporter from the Oregonian, talking about the Pac-12 TV deal.
I don't want the opportunity to be missed today to talk about football. We're not announcing a media deal on purpose today because I want the focus to be on football.
George, just to follow on what you just said, I think a response ago, because it caught a lot of people's attention very quickly. You just said you're not announcing a deal today on purpose because you want the attention to be on football.
Yep.
To be clear, that would imply that the deal is done and codified and just you're waiting until after today.
I think you're reading too much into that.
So then what is the purpose behind not announcing something, which is what you just said?
We want to have the focus on football today. We have an incredibly good football story to tell, and we want that to be the focus today.
Oh, dude,
bro.
And I truly don't know how to process that any other way than you were either ill-prepared or you're incompetent. Because nobody asked a question that would force Kliavkoff to say that. And I'm not a PR guy.
Mm-hmm.
I speak for a living. If I was advising George Kliavkoff, my message today, especially because I'm in the camp that believes they don't have a deal.
Right.
I'm in the camp that believes that the call with the president yesterday was simply an update. I don't believe they have a deal.
Yeah.
If I were advising George Kliavkoff, my advice to him would have been, here's what you say. We're not talking about TV deals or media deals today, and those are really important conversations and topics. I get it. But today is 100% about the coaches and players that are here to talk about their teams and are here to talk about Pac-12 football. Those TV deal conversations are for another day, and we're going to have them. I understand you have to ask the questions, guys, but listen, I'm here to talk football today, and if you have questions about football, I'm happy to answer those.
Yeah.
Done. No talking off the top of your head. No free-flowing, none of that. I'm here to talk about football today, and man, those TV deal conversations and media rights deals, those are really important. But we're here to focus on football today. Because when you say things like, I am on purpose not announcing, notice he didn't say, I'm on purpose not talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
Again, listen to this first sentence.
I don't want the opportunity to be missed today to talk about football. We're not announcing a media deal on purpose today because I want.
We're not announcing the new media deal on purpose today. So you have a new media deal. Oh, no, we don't. Well, no, you're reading too much.
I think that he tries to overcomplicate things too much. Honestly, he overtalks it.
No improvisation. Improvisation. It's Friday.
Yeah.
No improv. No talking off the top of your head, dude. Here's and I'd put his ass on a teleprompter. That's why I said I don't have a problem with George being on a teleprompter. He is not a gifted speaker. He is not a gifted orator. And that's exactly why. Yeah. So less of me, more of you. Appreciate all of your comments. Let's see. Just a Rowdy Dude gives us $5 to say the $400 million loss the Pac-12 delivered to Fox won't go away and cast a long, dark shadow over the media rights negotiation. Absolutely could be. MJ Bissett gives us $10 to say, would it help negotiations with the media if Pac-12 signed an equal revenue sharing grant of rights for 7-year period independent? Making a deal with a group that appears fractured is dubious. I don't think you can do that. I don't think you can do that. I truly don't think you can do that. Because you lose all your leverage in that case.
Yeah.
You lose all your leverage. Alex Larson had the blood Raz today.
Boom.
Much better than Miami. Really?
Okay.
Really?
You're
taking blood Raz over Miami. Wow.
Okay.
Wow. Just a rowdy dude from South Carolina. Tony Altimore's list for college football fan base is different. I've not seen that list. I have not seen that list in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, most of dudes' lists are different.
Yeah. And again, I don't know. Everybody brings up Tony's name. I shouldn't say everybody. Occasionally his name comes up on the show. I don't know him. I don't know what he does. But hey, if he has a different list, I'm sure it's great.
And if you'd like to pay us to bring up his name, we're fine with that.
Yeah. Steve Spenlove's the newest member of the show.
Let's go, baby. Let's go, baby.
Let's go.
Finish Friday strong.
Joseph Melendez. It's a shame. I was sure they'd announce a TV deal today in honor of the second FNF.
FNF.
Okay. I could be lost.
Okay, let's pull out the Google machine here. FNF.
You know. I don't know what that means. I'm probably
Friday Night Funkin'.
Okay.
That's a game thing, I guess.
Okay.
I don't know. What does that
MJ
mean?
Bassett. I meant Pac-12 should sign a revenue-sharing grant of rights before negotiating with media partners. No, I know what you meant. MJ, I just don't think that I think that as a member of the conference, that would be suicide. Because then you're saying, hey, we'll take the deal.
Yeah.
And you're trusting a guy like George Kliavkoff to do that. I would not. And B, I think if George goes to a media partner, I think it probably helps him negotiate, but it doesn't help him get more money.
Yeah.
I think it would help him make a deal. Hey, all my schools are in line. I have the power to execute right now. Okay, cool. We'll pay you $5 a school. They're going to come in low. Yeah. That'd be the issue that I'd have with it. Alex Larson, this is outright existential for the PAC. If they lose one member, they can't hold a championship. If they lose three, they lose autonomy status. And again, there's that word that I use, existential.
Yeah.
A crisis of existence.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
I think that's the exact right word. I think that's why this expansion question is so significant, and I wish somebody had asked George about it. Like, when you say we are absolutely not expanding until a deal is done, why is that?
Regarding potential expansion, while we have already done the due diligence on expansion candidates many months ago and significantly narrowed our focus to a handful of schools, our sequence remains unchanged. First, we will conclude our media rights deals. Then our schools will sign our grant of rights, which has already been negotiated, and only then will we decide on potential expansion.
Yeah, I don't understand that. Because you want to talk about helping yourself in a deal, and Alex, I think you're exactly right, this being an existential crisis.
Yeah.
If you want to help yourself negotiate a deal, don't you go with expand? I would think you would want more market share.
You notice that the grant of rights allegedly got, the revenue sharing and the grant of rights side of the situation allegedly is handled already. Well, who handles that? This is an important point. The president's
totally
handled
agree.
that, right?
Yeah. No, you're exactly right. Certainly. Let's see. Jeremy Callahan, super chat at a Big 12 slant. Hey, man. Could be. Nate Davis, I see Arizona, Oregon, Washington, Arizona State, Utah, Colorado, Louisville, Pitt, San Diego State, Big 12. And what did you guys think of Kyle Whittingham's comments today? I think Kyle is phenomenal. I think he's exactly right to say that, hey, we don't want to be out front. We don't want to be,
Kyle Whittingham is very consistent in the way he views his program and the way he wants to run things. And I think I would expect nothing less. I would expect nothing different, for better or for worse.
Absolutely. Kyle Whittingham is, in my opinion, still one of the most underrated coaches in the country.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. LV Seminole, how are you? I'm a Blue Raz Rocket Pop bucked up fan myself.
Okay.
Wow, dude. Maybe I'm missing out.
Rocket Pop's been getting some love the last few days.
It has, but the white gummy bear, man. I'm telling you. Truck Stop Gumby says my list is different too. Okay. Vincent Paterno. Groucho and Huxley want to join the PAC, or is George against it? Horse feathers. Okay.
Okay, great. Yeah, wow.
Vorlon Angel. Tony Altimore, a.k.a. Chartman. What is Chartman?
Yeah,
I don't know what that means. I don't know.
We're not well-versed on it.
Yeah, we're not well-versed. No, because everybody starts calling us arrogant when I say, hey, we don't watch other shows. We don't.
We're just working on our little YouTube show,
It was great. Like at Big 12 Football Media Days, it was great to meet everybody. So many people came up to us and said, hey, we watch your show. And to see the guy, like we were right across from Sikkim 365.
Yeah.
You know, to meet those guys. And it was great to see everybody. It was, but there were just so many people that do charts or
flow charts.
You know.
Chats.
Saul, better call Saul. Yeah, the poor man can't afford a comment. Yeah, you guys need to step it up. It's not how it is on this show. I thought, Tanner Plummer, FNF was Friday night at Freddy's.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
I wish it was Friday night at Freddy's. Kurt Peters, how are you? What? No deal today? I'm shocked. Just shocked.
There's my guy, Kurt. Big day for you yesterday, bro. You going to follow it up with another good one today?
Yeah, you had yourself a hell of a day yesterday.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah,
By the way, how are we feeling? We still a little sore? What's the deal?
What? I don't remember. Oh, because of the snippage.
Yeah, Buddy got
That's
snipped.
right. Buddy got snipped. The boys, he had the boys get clipped. You know, it's just, yeah. Yeah, we'll see about that. I don't know. Nick Jones, Brett McMurphy's tweet. Which one? His latest tweet 23 minutes ago, Pac-12 Commissioner George Kliavkoff told B. Marcello, who's Brandon Marcello, National College Football reporter for 247, league's remaining members will not leave the conference, but would not specify if the Pac-12's media rights deal will match or exceed the Big 12's. I'm not going to tell you where our media deals are coming in. It will be enough for them to all sign their grant of rights. That's important kind of milestone. That's the important kind of milestone. Well, this is certainly new news. Now, you guys know on this show, we would never tell you I told you so. You know that humble fat ass would never,
never, dude.
We want your feelings.
People are misinterpreting what I'm saying.
We don't ever want you to understand just how superior we are in the DNA chain.
Right.
I should stop. Anybody want to go ahead and do themselves a favor and read the last quoted sentence? I'm not going to tell you where our media deals are coming in, meaning money. It will be enough. It will be enough. It will be enough for them to all sign their grant of rights. Now, here on the Monty program, otherwise known as the Shit Show.
Well said.
We've been telling you that the number's 25 million.
Right.
24.99 million or less, you're going to lose two teams. $25 million or more, you're going to keep all 10 of them. That's the number we've been told by sources in the conference.
Yeah.
So you have George Kliavkoff, the commissioner, saying it will be enough for them to all sign the grant of rights. I don't know where you guys have heard that before. By the way, he also said he wouldn't specify if the Pac-12's media rights deal will match or exceed the Big 12's $31.7 million per school. That's because there's not a chance in the world, in my opinion, based on what we have been told, that he will get anywhere near that.
No.
Not a chance in the world.
No.
Will he get anywhere near that? And I think, and I don't mind tooting my own horn, as many of you are going to say I don't mind. But we've told you this for 10 months, the number that we have heard repeatedly is 19.7 million. I have told you that this league and its presidents, the 10 remaining presidents, will not go beyond 50% streaming. They want at least their tier 1 and 2 on linear television.
I want it.
ESPN, whoever. We have told you repeatedly that it's going to be very difficult for this conference to get anywhere near 31.7 million. I think they will, in my opinion, come in at 20. And if that happens, I think it's going to be a very bad week for this conference.
Right.
Because in my opinion, I point to Colorado. I think Colorado is the most likely one to say, yeah, no, we're going to roll now. Thank you. Because you can have your most ardent supporters of the Pac-12, and they will tell you repeatedly, nobody would ever leave this conference.
With all due respect.
The truth on that is nobody wants to leave the conference.
Mm-hmm.
They will leave the conference. Colorado, in my opinion, if it comes in at 20, is going to go ahead and take the 31.7 from the Big 12.
Pack this thing up. We're out of here.
If it comes in at 20, Arizona is going to go ahead and take the 31.7 million from the Big 12. And after that, I don't know what happens, because the thing that I fear for the Pac-12 is if you lose those two schools, I think you're going to lose the 4 in the North. I do. I think you're going to lose those 4 northern schools, Oregon, Washington, Stanford, and Cal. I think they're gone. And it just makes too much sense that at $20 million, Washington State doesn't have an athletic program. They don't have an athletic department. They cannot afford to exist at $20 million a year.
Facts.
They're in a hole right now.
Yeah.
Because they're already not receiving, but by some estimations, 55 to 60% of the maximum revenue, because of things like, hey, got to pay Comcast. Oh, by the way, the Holiday Bowl is suing everybody and their brother. Right? You're hemorrhaging money. Oh, by the way, Washington State's probably going to settle this Rolovich lawsuit. Going to have to pay that. Oh, by the way, your staff and your faculty, by some reports, had a revolt a couple of weeks ago because they're tired of the blank check in athletics. And who can blame them? So if this does not come in at $25 million or more, you're going to lose a couple of these teams, which is going to start the domino effect we always hear about.
Well, and I think the other side of it too is like once a couple of teams leave the conference, right? Like the first two, let's say, the other conferences are going to get hungry, right? What have we heard on the conference side of it? Yormark and everybody has essentially said, hey, we don't want to be seen as the Raiders of the Pac-12. We don't want to be seen as pillaging the Pac-12. But if two schools leave, and then there's instability, or I guess more instability, because I believe there's a lot of instability in the conference right now. But if there's that additional level of instability, then that kind of, gives these other conferences a green light to go hunting, in my opinion. That pick up the phone and start dialing, right? Pick up the phone and call Phil Knight. Pick up the phone and call, Taylor Randall if he doesn't take the Stanford job, right? Like, call these schools, get them into your conference, and let's get on with getting on. Because I'm telling you, the burnout rate is not just high for us on this show. At Big 12 Media Days, trust me, there were some people who mentioned the fact, not publicly, but privately, mentioned the fact that, hey, the Pac-12 thing is kind of this yapping dog, this barking dog that continues to just kind of keep going down the road it's going down. And at some point, that's going to stop. At some point, there is going to be an end one way or the other. And yeah, I do hope the Pac-12 continues, because I do think they have some of the best real estate in the country. And I think that matters. LA is a hell of a lot different than Norman, right? LA is a hell of a lot different than, whatever other Midwestern or East Coast city you want to point out. And I just think when you have that luxury, the conference, as you always say, deserves a lot better.
They do. That's the thing that I really struggle with. This conference, in my opinion, has been underserved since its existence because of the lack of leadership and the lack of what it really comes down to for me is the balls to make the right decision.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to show the courage and the chutzpah to say, hey, Larry Scott, we're not flying private jets in Vegas anymore. We're not paying for a lease in downtown San Francisco. I'm trying to figure out how to fund my athletic department, not fund your lease in downtown San Francisco, your penthouse in Vegas, and your private jet to get there. At some point, somebody's got to have the balls to say anyone and everyone connected to this Comcast deal is terminated today.
Yeah.
It's amazing to me.
Yeah.
The mistakes that have been made in this conference. It's crazy. Cougar Tracks gives us $2 to say the Monty and Jake show, best show going. Thank you. No, thank you. We appreciate you guys being here. OG Gary says super conferences are inevitable. Just bend the knee already.
Well,
I hope not. I really do. John Crowder, Colorado may turn out to be a one-hit wonder under Prime. So should the Big 12 pursue them for a new member? Well, I don't think Deion Sanders can hop after a year. Because one, he's going to win 3 or 4 games this year.
Mm-hmm.
2, I think he knows he needs a solid 5-year run. He either stays there 5 years or he wins the conference 3 times in 5 years and he's out. That I could see happening.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's going to happen. This league is too deep and too good.
Mm-hmm.
So if these 10 members stay together, Deion's going to have a very steep hill to climb to get to the top of the conference.
Yeah.
So I think he will be in Boulder for 5 years minimum. I think Deion knows better than that. I truly do.
Mm.
I think he knows better than that. Let's see. Shooter, Texas. ESPN gave the Big 12 a hunting license with that pro rata clause. That right there speaks to how much they want the Pac-12 to stay together. Well, that's an interest. Nobody's ever said that.
Yeah.
I think that's an interesting perspective.
I mean, I think
they did give him a hunting license.
Look, the reality of the situation is, and the Pac-12 has been suffering in large part because they're just not in the big picture as relevant as these other conferences are. And again, I will die on the hill of it goes back to you're on the West Coast, not the East Coast.
Correct.
You are. People have to go out of their way to watch your product.
That's right.
It's not just a comfortable thing. Now, for all of our West Coast folks or even Mountain Time folks, you know this better than anyone. All you have to do is wake the hell up like you normally do, get your coffee, go about your day, and then, roll up at 1 o'clock and your favorite game is on. That's not how it works for East Coasters. They have to put an effort to view that product. And that's why I say if you're ESPN, it does incentivize you to merge, to bring a conference together that merges the Midwest and the West Coast together so you don't have a choice anymore.
The thing I miss about living in the Pacific time zone, by which I mean Arizona.
Right.
The thing I miss about living in the Pacific time zone is, dude, you wake up on Saturday morning and they're playing football already.
Yeah.
Flip on the TV and you've got a Big Ten game. You've got an ACC football game. Like, that's the beauty of being in the Pac-12. And will that continue? Certainly it will. For somebody. But will it be the Pac-10? Because I think this comment right here, you guys, I think this tweet is a big deal. And I think when you look at this tweet and you see that he what happened to the bloviation, dude? What happened to the $500 million a year? What happened to the $40, $50 million that all of the flagship stations in this conference were running out there? You flip on Bill Riley in Salt Lake City, and we're getting $50 million a year.
Yep.
You flip on, ESPN 710 in Los Angeles, and it's $40 million a year for the Pac-12 TV deal.
Buddy up north, $50 million a year.
What happened? Yeah, Mr. Radio Wizard saying that the Pac-12 is going to get $50 million a year. Maybe it happens. Anybody believe it's going to happen when George Kliavkoff is talking to 247 Sports and simply refuses to validate that his conference is going to be on par with the Big 12?
You know how bad George Kliavkoff wants to just slurp his conference and say, we're the best, conference of champions, 50 a year. Like, if they had it, he would be saying it. If you had a $50 million juggernaut media rights deal,
Yes.
They would be out here evangelizing, dude.
Yes.
But they're not because they don't.
Yes. Yes, yes, and yes. I absolutely agree with that. And I just this is why it's so difficult, man. This is why it's so difficult. The Monty Show, bringing you the biggest stories in sports, presented by our friends at BladeHQ.com. BladeHQ.com. Whether you need a daily carry, whether you're looking for a collector's piece, BladeHQ.com delivers you the best knives from the best knife makers. Go check them out. Their website is unbelievable. Every single day at BladeHQ.com, they deliver you the deal of the day. They have an unbelievable sales section. And the best part about BladeHQ.com, there's nothing worse than shopping online somewhere and you're like, yeah, man, I cannot wait to get that collector's knife. I got it at BladeHQ.com. And 6 weeks later, you're like, hey, customer service. That's not how it works at BladeHQ.com. You buy at BladeHQ.com and it's at your door quick because they built their own website. And I don't mean, Jimmy in graphic design, you got that website running already? It's not what they did at BladeHQ.com.
I was going to make a Pac-12 funding reference, but I passed on that opportunity.
At BladeHQ.com, they built their own platform. They built their own software. They programmed the whole website, and all of it, every single moment that they spent doing that was all about the best user experience possible. It's easy to shop over 15,000 different knives in stock at BladeHQ.com. And by the way, if you're a hunter, if you're a fisherman, if you're an outdoorsman, and you need everything from batons, again, knives, blades, Leatherman tools, clothing, hats, lanterns, you name it, they've got it. Everything you need in one place at BladeHQ.com. Make sure you tell them you heard about it on the Monty Show. I think the biggest story in sports, without a doubt, is this situation with the Pac-12 today. But I also think now this Brett McMurphy tweet, in the one-on-ones that George Kliavkoff has done today, and I don't think, by the way, I think it would have been surprising if nothing came on about the one-on-one interviews that George Kliavkoff was doing. Because, again, you almost expect George to pull the pin on a grenade and put it in his pocket, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you expect him to blow himself up in one-on-one interviews.
Yeah.
Which is why he so rarely does them unless it's with his friends and people he knows will allow him to carry out hit pieces.
Back to the envelope calculations.
But on days like big event days, Pac-12 Football Media Day, where he has to take questions and he has to work one-on-one, bad news is inevitable to happen. So I look at this tweet that is from Brett McMurphy, Action Network. He's talking about Brandon Marcello from 247 Sports. George Kliavkoff told Marcello the league's remaining members will not leave the conference. So George said today that poaching from the Big 12 is a non-issue because nobody's leaving the conference, but would not specify if the Pac-12's media rights deal will match or exceed the Big 12's. And the interesting part about that is all George has been saying is bigger, better, bigger.
We're going to be third.
Yeah, we're going past them. And it's like, we are hoo-hoo. Now all of a sudden you're not saying that anymore. And you won't talk about who your TV partners are because today is all about football. Unless you're talking to Mr. Marcello and all you're talking about, it appears, is the TV deal that hasn't been announced today.
Right.
He also said, I'm not going to tell you where our media rights deals are coming in, money-wise. It will be enough for them, the members, to all sign their grant of rights.
Like right there. That's what I'm talking about. It will be enough for them to sign? That doesn't sound very positive, George. That sounds like a get-me-over. That sounds like... Yeah, man, wow. Dude, yeah, we've got enough to pay rent, but, and that's enough for us to keep our place, but we're not getting, oh my God, we're floating in it. We're sleeping in piles of cash, bro. That's what we were getting, and that's why I think this tweet is such a departure from what George was saying.
Yeah.
It's a clear change in messaging.
Yeah, and I think you listen to some of the things that George Kliavkoff said, to open up Pac-12 Football Media Days today, like him talking about the TV deal.
Before I finish my remarks, let me provide you with an update on our media rights negotiation and our approach to considering expansion. I know there's been never-ending speculation about the timing of our media deals, but in the end, we're on track to announce our deals at about the same time as everyone would have anticipated and predicted before the news of conference realignment. The Pac-12 Board of Directors has met regularly throughout the process and has been united in their commitment to one another and to the Pac-12, and this commitment and patience will be rewarded with an announcement in the near future. Getting the right deal has always been more important to our board and to the conference than getting the expeditious one.
So one of the things I want you to pay attention to is the difference in delivery. And I'm going to play this bite from Brett Yormark on SiriusXM doing an interview last week at Big 12 Football Media Days. I want you to look at the lighting. I want you to look at the suit, the presentation, and the ease with which Brett Yormark speaks.
The media market today isn't what it was when we did our deal in the fall. And I am just so thrilled that we got our deal done early, because I'm not sure if I didn't do that deal then, that deal exists today. You know, there's an opportunity cost to chasing a deal. You know, if I was if I had been in the market all year chasing a deal, all the things that we talked about earlier and I addressed yesterday wouldn't have happened, because I would have had a singular focus on one thing. The fact that we were able to get that thing done early and in 90 days gave us the latitude and the ability to chase all the other things we're doing now. So we really leveraged that moment to the extent that we could, and it's built incredible momentum for us.
I mean, you look at the, just stylistically, friends.
Yes.
The confidence, the ease. Look how bright the room was. Oh, that's right. It was on the floor at AT&T Stadium in Tarrant County, Texas.
County, where the humidity is 8,000%.
That's at Jerry World. So the lighting's better. That's got to be a $3,000 to $5,000 suit he's wearing. Like, he's ready. He's prepared.
Got the timepiece on.
And that is an interview on SiriusXM radio where they're just having a free-flowing conversation, and he makes a revelation. Oh, wait, it sounded like a revelation. It wasn't. He prepared that comment. He executed that comment. He didn't stumble on himself. He wasn't reading. Brett Yormark took a direct shot at the Pac-12 in that statement, and he executed it with lethality. Like, there was no doubt.
Yeah.
Hey, if I'd have been in the market for the last year, I couldn't have done all the things I've done. That's a direct shot at the Pac-12.
Cold-blooded, clean, methodical, and thorough.
And it's well delivered in a bright, massive crown jewel of a stadium where you just signed a 5-year extension with the Dallas Cowboys and AT&T Stadium, where you're going to have your pro day for the entire conference. You're going to have your conference championship game for the next 5 years. You're going to have your Big 12 football media days there for the next 5 years. And the entire world showed up. And I'm telling you, you listen to these bites from George Kliavkoff, is he at all as impressive as the well-prepared, dressed to the nines, and executing flawlessly Brett Yormark?
Regarding potential expansion, while we have already done the due diligence on expansion candidates many months ago and significantly narrowed our focus to a handful of schools, our sequence remains unchanged. First, we will conclude our media rights deals. Then our schools will sign our grant of rights, which has already been negotiated. And only then will we decide on potential expansion.
It's night and day. It's night and day. And I can tell you that, because again, not to keep saying it, we were there for 2 days in Dallas last week.
Yeah.
Brett Yormark was asked repeatedly, hey, are you poaching teams? Hey, are you poaching teams? Hey, have you talked to teams? When are you going to expand? Hey, what's going on? Are you going after the Pac-12? Repeatedly. And what did he say over and over and over again? I'm not doing that. I'm not talking about that. We're not talking about that. Let's talk about football. I'm not talking about that. repeatedly. Not, no, I'm not. Not, I'm not talking about that. No, I'm not. I'm not talking. Let's talk about football. I'm not talking about that.
Well, and I love the fact that he kicked off Media Day by controlling the narrative, right?
Yes.
I mean, in his opening statement, Brett Yormark said, hey, I want to clarify what I meant by the Big 12 is open for business.
Yes.
And then went on to say, hey, what I meant by that was not that we're going to go, rummaging through other conferences or we're trying to poach teams. What I meant is that, hey, the Big 12 is now open for business. We want to look at opportunities, and then
he ran off Mexico, Rucker Park, and
like all these different things. And I think that's what he just does better. And it's probably unfair to compare a Lamborghini to a Honda, but that's what we're forced to do because, George over here wants to step up on the dais and make an idiot of himself. Like, we don't have a choice here. So it's just unfortunate, and it begs the question and it racks everyone's mind. Hey, if the Pac-12 had a competitor to Brett Yormark, what would the landscape look like?
If you had been able to hire a Tony Petitti.
Yeah.
If you had been able to go out and get a dominant force, what would that look like?
Go get Kevin Warren instead of letting him go to the Chicago Bears.
Zachary Thornton gives us $10 to say arrogance once again takes down the proud. It always does.
Facts, dude.
It always does.
Man, that is well said.
Stephen Smith gives us $20 to say, how about Big 12 Rucker Park going this past week while the Pac-12 was still floundering for a deal if there was one going to happen? Rucker Park's a home run for the Big 12.
So let me get this right. You knock, by all accounts, you knock Big 12 Media Days out of the park, right? Crush it. No, damn well knowing that Pac-12 Media Day is coming up. And let me get this right. You scheduled Rucker Park in that event to essentially not compete, but essentially be a thing that your media team at the conference could just hammer. And then what do I get in my Twitter feed? BYU, right? Putting out all this video about, our basketball head coaches with little kids, and they're all, they're in this beautiful Rucker Park, and,
It's remarkable.
And then all these other schools that I have in my Twitter feed. Look at our coach and our guy. Like, dude, they just understand it. And once again, I think the umbrella point on the whole conversation today, what's the positive note coming out of Pac-12 Media Days? Give me one positive, because I can't think of one at the conference level. Now, SC and Lincoln or Kyle Whittingham, okay, sure. But at the conference level, what is the positive note? Because I can't think of one right now.
Yeah, and if you look at all the national college football writers, guys like Stuart Mandel's top tweet, what I learned, Stuart Mandel, the editor-in-chief of college football at The Athletic, what I learned at Pac-12 Media Day, still no sign of an imminent TV deal, but additional players emerged. At least 2 schools currently oppose any expansion, much less San Diego State, which is exactly what I told you 2 hours ago. The concern about Big 12 defections is subsiding. Okay, so that's what we learned from Stuart Mandel. Dan Wolken, who is the national columnist for USA Today, nothing on the Pac-12. Nothing. Heather Dinich. She talks about Big 12 poaching teams, quote, not a concern for the Pac-12. That's her number one.
Right.
Brett McMurphy just told you about this. The money not being a point. Like, you go down the list and you look at these guys and you look at Ross Dellinger. Ross Dellinger's not tweeting about the Pac-12. He's tweeting about the NCAA NIL bill that's floating through Congress in Washington. He's not talking about the Pac-12 in his recent tweet.
Yeah.
Like, you look at all of these, and I go, like, look at a guy like, who's John Wilner, who's the best, I think the best media member in the Pac-12, by far. John Wilner's last tweet 6 hours ago. One notable difference this year at Pac-12 Media Day, strong turnout of ADs compared to last year when most wanted to avoid the press given all the tumult. John Wilner, one of the leading journalists. That's his tweet. That's one of his that's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Tweeting about Mark Harlan saying, quote, our words and actions speak for themselves. We are a proud member of the Pac-12. Like, do you guys understand that there's no buzz out of this event?
Yeah.
There's not. And I see all of the people in the comments saying I'm just being intentionally negative. I'm not. But I look at what Stephen Smith said. How about the Big 12 Rucker Park going on this past week while the Pac-12 was still floundering for a deal if there was one going to happen, and there wasn't one.
So for everyone saying that we're being negative in the comments, okay, I'm open to this, right? We'll be open to this conversation. Help me with the positive. What am I missing?
What are we missing?
What is the positive headline coming out at the conference level? Because again, notice what I said. Hey, there's definitely some positive notes as far as programs are concerned, right? But those are always going to be there, right? SC and Lincoln's always going to be there. Witt up at Utah is always like those conversations within the individual institutions are always going to be there. What's Media Days about, or Media Day in this essay?
Yeah.
It's about the conference and the direction and where the conference is going. And then that is backed up by, hey, we've got Texas and Oklahoma still, or we've got K-State's really up and coming, or that. Then you can get into teams. We can't just skip over the fact that I don't think there's anything positive at the conference level.
Shooter Texas says Big 12 poaching is not a concern for the same guy who said that $50 million was a guarantee. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Christopher Shannon, what about Canzano's Twitter? We try to stay off of Canzano's Twitter because it's just, I think John Canzano has lost any shred of credibility he's ever had. Any shred he's ever had. John Canzano, his last tweet. The Pac-12 tried to make Media Day about football. It was a big lift.
It was?
It was? Was it really? Okay. That's great. You know what, man? That's what, okay. So you guys tell me, and I'll even show you, I'll even screen grab this tweet because I don't know. What are we talking about here, man?
What?
What are we, this is his big JohnCanzano.com. Hey, look at this tweet. Look at this tweet. Oh, my God. It's amazing. Pac-12 Football Media Day was a home run of the highest order. Holy shit. Who's talking about Pac-12 football? Because I'm looking at all the Pac-12 media members on Twitter, and nobody's talking about it. So who here, and I'm being serious, you look at, well, the wrong hand. You look at this. And we talk about credibility. Again, we talk about credibility all the time on this show. How did Pac-12 football get a big lift today? How did that happen? And again, in the comments section, you let me know. How did that happen? That's amazing to me. Jim Choi. Canzano is just a PAC-paid propagandist. I agree with that.
Yeah, where was John Canzano during the presser? Any questions out of John Canzano during the presser?
No. No. Alex Larson, why concern yourself with something that you know will happen? Yeah, I don't know. DF Ost, as Big 12 fans, we need to be kind to the Pac-12 schools. Not long ago, we were in the same spot they were in. Kindness is more inviting to the Pac-12 to join us than cruelty.
Yeah, but here's the problem with that. And I'm not saying you're 100% wrong, but I think in today's media landscape and certainly in college football landscape, you got to be a killer, man. Like you got to be ruthless. Like you got to be out here ready to go. And when I say ready to go for Big 12 fans, what that means for you is your commissioner and your conference better have TV partnerships possibly ready to go in case Pac-12 schools are ready to come into the conference. Like you got to have all that lined out. And frankly, I'm very confident that Yormark has that plan because he's made side references. He hasn't obviously directly said, but he said, we have a plan for expansion.
Yeah.
We are prepared. Now, he obviously didn't go on something about Pac-12 schools or this or UConn or Gonzaga or whatever it is, but they have a plan. They are prepared. And who's surprised? Brett Yormark. They're prepared.
It's just disappointing, again, that this is where the Pac-12 finds itself. And, I don't know how you fix this. I don't know how you flip the narrative. other than to distract yourself with the best meatballs you've ever
At
had?
Papa Murphy's, we do more than just pizza. We do meatballs and marinara.
Papa Murphy's does meatballs?
Oh, I think you mean I do the meatballs and marinara?
And how do you do it, Dad?
How do I do it? How do I do it?
Well, we do it with savory ground beef
Covered in tangy marinara. That's how, honey.
At Papa Murphy's, we make great pizza.
And don't forget the meatballs.
Order now at papamurphys.com.
Papa Murphy's Pizza, the official pizza of the Monty Show. Make sure you use the promo code Monty25. Kick off your weekend in style with Papa Murphy's Pizza. I would love just a crust barbecue sauce again. I mean, we're all grown-ass men. We use barbecue sauce, like, a little bit of cheese.
I just thought that you would appreciate me treating you like an adult.
We use barbecue sauce in this house, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm sure there will be riots about this. All right, let's run through some of your comments. Aaron Wilson says, breaking Comedy Central to make media rights bid for the Pac-12.
All gas, no break.
Who's going to bring up the Travel Channel? Please.
Discovery.
Please. Mark Ruckert, how are you? Good to see you, Mark. None left to lose. Nothing left to lose. Nothing. Tanner Plummer, Clown Zano loses all credibility with that tweet. That guy, and he used to be like one of the best in the business, John Canzano. And I don't know what happened to that dude. I really don't know what happened to him at all. AMAC, Kliavkoff didn't give much of an opportunity for questions. He ran away and hid. Well, once James Crapia lit him up,
so
that's where it ended.
If you go and watch the presser after the show, go watch the presser in full. You can find it's all over YouTube. What you will notice is the guy who, so you know how when people do press conferences, there's always a guy on the side that kind of controls the mic and picks the questions. Dude's name was Jim, right? You'll hear George say, hey, Jim, who's got the first question? So, we get like 3 or 4 questions in or whatever, working through the presser. And Jim said, hey, we're going to take this question and one more. And it was at that point when that second to last question was asked that George Kliavkoff answered that question with the quote we've played a gazillion times today. And then our boy James here from the Oregonian went in on George Kliavkoff. That's why I think the presser was ended so quickly, because they could kind of see Jim's not stupid, right? The guy controlling where the mic goes and everything. People understand George is not a gifted presser guy. You just understand that. So you're only going to give him so much leash. That's why I feel like it ended so quickly, because they were really trying to wrap it up.
100%. I think that's I can't even. Yeah, you're good. John Dry, I thought the PAC denied some Big 12 schools in a merger. Dude, do you understand? And I think most people do. The Pac-12 had a kill shot on the Big 12 and didn't take it. But why didn't they take it? And I've talked about this 5 times this week already. Because Carol Folt, the president at USC, said we're not expanding. All right, see you guys later. They had a special session of sorts of the executive committee in the Pac-12.
Yeah.
Was a call. Hey, we're here to talk about expansion and expansion candidates. Here's who we'd like to target. This school, that school in the Big 12, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Hey, Steve, what do you think? Yeah, let's do it. Hey, Bob, what do you think? Yeah, let's do it. Carol Folt, the most important voice in the room at USC, what do you think? No, I think expansion's good. Expansion's good. And I'm assuming just in my visual narrative that I'm about to make up to tell a story, she looked down on her phone and she saw Kevin Warren calling. She's like, hey, guys, by the way, I got to run. We got some business over here, but yeah, fuck expansion. No, we're good. All right, see you guys later. Hey, Kev. Kevy, good to hear from you, buddy.
Hey, guys.
She said no to expanding the Pac-12 and then almost immediately turned around and went and joined the Big Ten.
No.
That's why there was no kill shot taken.
Yeah. So when Big 12 fan, with all due respect, not trying to make personal or mean, when you talk about, hey, we got to be nice to PAC schools, no, screw that. You got to go in for the kill.
Yeah. It's crazy. Tom says Brett Murphy reports George Kliavkoff, the longer we wait for our media rights deal, the better our options are. Well, and we talked about that ad nauseum on the show, and I'm happy to play that bite. I mean, it is Because I actually think at this point where they are, I actually think it's actually mostly a true statement. I mean, I'll play the bite and then I'll explain.
We constantly update our board. I think they're enthusiastic like I am about the media deal. But I will tell you what we've seen is that the longer we wait for the media deal, the better our options get. And I think our board realizes that. And there's an underlying shift in the media market that's happening, and we're long-term taking advantage of that. But short-term, it may have provided some hiccups.
Now, here's why I think he's not wrong. There's no way to offset the fact that you have screwed yourself into the ground and handled this so incredibly poorly.
Yeah.
That you failed upward on a media deal. Because if you look at the changing face of sports media rights, and I go to two big ones, I think the two most important deals in sports this year, the WNBA deal with Ion Scripps and the Las Vegas Golden Knights deal with Ion Scripps.
Yeah.
Those two broke the mold on how you do media rights deals. And then you look at what's going on in Phoenix, where MLB now owns the rights to the Arizona Diamondbacks. The Suns and Mercury left Bally Sports because Bally Sports is out of money. They're going bankrupt. They're withholding payments. Then you look in Salt Lake City in Utah, look at the Utah Jazz. They were on AT&T Sportsnet. Well, not anymore because AT&T Sportsnet ceases to exist. So the Jazz have their own platform, and they're going back to local TV and the app for streaming. That's the way, my friends.
Yes.
That's the way. So when you look at George, a year ago, that would have all been craziness. Oh, you guys, how stupid are you to be saying things like local TV and streaming?
We're too good for streaming.
You guys don't know what you're talking about.
Dude, our fan base is in the Bay Area. They don't need to stream.
Streaming. Fucking idiot.
Whoever came up with that shit need to be fired.
Right? Like that's what the conversation would have been a year ago. If I'd have told you regional sports networks are dead.
RSNs.
Local deals are where the money's at for these major league professional teams. The media world has shifted completely.
Mm-hmm.
You look at the shifting money situation at Disney that's forced ESPN to do business a different way. Breaking news today. ESPN is working on a model where Major League Baseball, the NBA, the NFL, the NHL, all of their professional sports partners would buy an equity share of ESPN, which would allow ESPN to cut smaller checks and everybody involved makes more money. The game's changing, dude. These huge media rights payments are no longer there. That's the other reason I talked about it this week, the Big Ten deal. I don't think we'll ever see a deal like that. I think it absolutely is dysfunctional and not something that you can support. You can't support it. And you look at what Brett Yormark said last week, if I was trying to get the deal I got now, today, we'd be done. It wouldn't happen. So when you look at what Kliavkoff said, hey, it actually has benefited us the longer this goes on, he's not wrong. But let's not twist this. Let's not twist this in any way, shape, or form. That was not your plan. You lucked into this. You failed upward. Because your plan was to go out to market, crush the Big 12, get a bigger deal, and try to steal their members. Yeah, only ESPN and Fox went behind your back because you guys have been such pains in the ass during your exclusive negotiating period. Hey, Brett, it's Jimmy Pitaro at ESPN. Have you guys thought about coming out early? Let's renew a deal, yeah. And they did. And it cut the kneecaps off on the Pac-12.
You're so fucked.
In my opinion, and from what I've been told, that's what happened. So let's not spin this that George Kliavkoff is some unbelievable operator who's playing chess while we're all over here playing pinochle.
I'm for real.
Homie's not even playing a game. He's just getting lucky with the way that the media world has turned.
Yeah.
So for my money, George Kliavkoff is not wrong at all.
Y'all feel me?
When he says the longer this went on, the better it was for the Pac-12. Because in January, it was a shit show. In August, okay, now maybe we can work some things out. How about $19.7 million a year?
I think the only thing I would add to that is because of how this whole thing's worked, saying something like that makes you look like an idiot as far as that quote. Because, again, everyone's going to say, oh, he said the longer the longer they go without a deal is better for the Pac-12. That's what the national public perception of the quote is. I agree. What you just said is what I think George meant.
Yes.
But the public perception of that quote is, hey, the conference is a shit show, and why would he ever say something like that? That's what I think the issue is. He's not wrong, but it's a bad look.
Yeah, he is, make no mistake, George Kliavkoff has botched this whole thing, and Steve's spend love, you're not wrong at all. That is a wow. Kadu for $20. The problem with waiting on the media market to improve is that the longer the PAC waits, they have less and less time to get a deal done before the current deal expires. Thus, the leverage worsens as time passes.
Yeah, it's like when you short a stock, right?
Yes,
and it goes against you. You're just sitting here paying and paying and paying, and you're just getting a deeper and deeper hole. And by the way, yeah, all the other conferences, they're just running away from you. They're just stacking events, getting all the recruits.
Totally agree.
And the one thing I really didn't like that George talked about in his availability is that they're not seeing any kind of penalty in recruiting. They're not. The kids are coming to our conference.
Which I don't believe at all.
That's a crock of crap, dude.
Because you can go back to what Arizona football coach Jed Fisch said when he said, I'm telling my recruits our brand is strong. Our brand is strong. We will be somewhere. Right now, our feet are in the PAC.
Yeah.
10.
Mm-hmm.
PAC 10.
So it hurts recruiting.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
And all of this to say, you guys are absolutely right. There's no question about that. You are absolutely right, and it's I cannot believe how poorly today went for the Pac-12. Jim Choi, Jake is 100% right. NCAA athletics is cutthroat. It is.
Yeah, nobody cares how you feel, right?
Aaron Wilson says a big lift. LOL. It's amazing that Canzano wrote that today.
Yeah,
it's amazing he wrote that.
Yeah.
You know. Jay says, how embarrassing for the PAC. It's terrible. It is. It's absolutely, I agree. It's absolutely terrible. And it is not good. Greg Swaim, what happened to drive Clownzano over the edge? I don't know what happened to him.
So
I don't know, man.
I think money happened. I think my opinion is, I don't know this, right? No one's told me this or us this, but my opinion is that I think John Canzano, two things. I think he got real prideful because he has a radio show and because he's a writer, and those guys typically think because they've been doing that 30 years, they're hot shit. And I think the landscape's changing. I think the radio industry is going the wrong direction, but radio guys don't realize
changing?
that.
What was John Canzano known as? He was known for as a newspaper man.
Mm-hmm.
Newspapermen went away, and he opened up his own website, and I guess he still does a radio show, though I'm not clear. Okay, so he does a radio show. So now he is a guy that you have to subscribe to his website so he makes money. And I think that's a very difficult way to make a living. So, Greg, what happened to drive Clownzano over the edge? I have no idea. But it's guys like, and as much as Jason Shear and I apparently have butted heads in the past, it's guys like Jason that are in a city covering a university, in college anyway. Those are the guys that should get your money.
Yeah, and he went hunting, by the way, which I'm not exactly a big fan of.
What do you mean?
Jason Shear went hunting for Canzano yesterday on Twitter, and I think that also there's a price for that. I don't know that that's necessarily the best look.
I don't think you can go attacking guys.
Yeah,
and we've made a decision on this show not to talk about other people. Now here we are talking about John Canzano, but my point is, Jason Shear, guys like that, those guys that's the next wave of journalism.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we wonder why TV news and radio, talk radio in this country is struggling. It's because you don't have ethics anymore, because we don't have journalism anymore. And so guys like John Canzano, who write stupid shit like, and again, I'll put this tweet up because I want to make sure that we're we're being fair, because this is John Canzano's tweet. This is his tweet about Pac-12 football media day. The Pac-12 tried to make media day about football. It was a big lift. The fuck does that even mean?
Yeah.
I mean, if we're being totally
honest. It really
honest,
begs a question, yeah.
How was it a big lift?
Oh, what are you talking about, man?
Nobody's talking about Pac-12 football today.
Yeah.
It's not a big, we can sit here, and I think this is part of the problem in the Pac-12. They don't talk about their problems. Nobody says, hey, George, you screwed that up. Something terrible. That was embarrassing, dude. You can't be our commissioner anymore. Because that's how we opened the show today.
Yeah.
We opened the show today, and my point was George Kliavkoff can no longer be the commissioner of the Pac-12.
Yeah.
This today was a death knell for this conference's credibility. When you're talking about, like you make a statement like, we are on purpose not announcing a TV deal to focus on football. And then when you're asked by, I don't know, an actual journalist in James Crapia who says, hey, well, by the way, you said purposefully not announcing your new media deal. Does that mean you have one? And you say, no, you're reading too much into my comment, which is, you took it out of context.
Yeah. Yeah.
What? You can't be the commissioner anymore. But guess what? Nobody in the conference has the balls to say that. And the moment they get a new media deal, his ass should be out the door. You should be merging with the Mountain West, and Gloria Navarro should be your commissioner.
Yeah.
She ran the West Coast Conference at WCC perfectly. I think she handled the San Diego State situation perfectly. That conference has value for its size. Combine it with the Pac-12, kick Kliavkoff to the curb, and let's all go about our college sports business.
Excellent strategy, sir.
But it's guys like Clownzano who allow somebody like George Kliavkoff to come on his podcast last year and say back-of-the-envelope calculations. And he allows, he says, hey, well, not a single USC or UCLA fan want to be in the Big Ten.
Back to the envelope calculations.
So somebody actually did, again, let's get fucking crazy, journalism, and went and talked to UCLA and USC fans, and overwhelmingly, they wanted to be in the same conference, and they wanted that conference to be the Big Ten.
Hey, guys.
Like, it's ridiculous what goes on with this guy, and nobody holds him accountable.
Yep.
Doesn't make you feel responsible.
And it's because we don't have journalism in this country anymore. We simply do not.
Yeah.
It's amazing to me. Salty. What's up, Salty Drunk? Good to see you. I'm sorry, I don't have NBA for you today.
Yeah, dude, sorry.
This kind of has taken over, but we will. Trust me, Salty.
Yeah.
Aaron Wilson, because what would today be without Aaron being direct? No NBA talk, Salty. Sorry.
Fucking A.
Wiz Island. Of course, we will never see it because it's all three major channels.
Oh, what you mean?
Jim Choi. No media is committing $1 billion to a regional college conference. Well, it's not even that you're not committing billions of dollars. It's not even that you're regional. You're not easy to deal with.
Yeah.
People don't like George Kliavkoff. I've heard that repeatedly from people in television. We don't like dealing with him. And I just quickly will say, look at ESPN. ESPN could have ended this a long time ago. But are they working to destroy the Pac-12? No, they're not. Are they working to support the Pac-12? No, they're not. Were they working to support the Big 12? They were. They were. They even gave the Big 12 a pro rata for expansion. And I agree with what did you say, or somebody said. That's a hunting license on the Pac-12.
Yeah.
I think that's the best way. I think one of our listeners said that today.
Yeah, commenter did, yeah.
That's one of the best ways I've ever heard that put. The pro rata is a hunting license for the Big 12 to go out and get the Pac-12.
Yeah.
Who gave them that? Who issued that hunting license? ESPN did. By the way, did ESPN compete with Amazon? No, they did not. ESPN's not working to actively kill the Pac-12. I'm just doing nothing to help it sustain. Nothing. Nothing at all. J.K. Marshall, I really doubt it's better now than prior. There's no evidence of this at all. It's better now than prior. I think their media situation, it's almost like, think about a massive thunderstorm, right? Bright, sunshiny day, massive thunderstorm comes in for the last year. And now you're starting to see the clouds move away and the sun is coming back out because there's a little more space for people to make deals. The problem is, and what's going unsaid here is, the deal the Pac-12 needs and wants doesn't exist.
Yeah.
That's the problem. So you're going to make a deal. It's just not going to be the deal you want.
Yep.
Mark Ruckert. Wonder how the university CFOs feel about having zero clue what their 2024 budgets will look like. Ask Washington State.
Yeah. You should we have a Kirk Schultz. Dude, Kirk Schultz at one of their board meetings says, we probably shouldn't be making our budgets off of projections, right? Can you believe that concept? That
you can't throw a number up there, build a budget off it, and then find out later that you were $5 million off in that number because you took the best projections that were there and said, "Hey, let's just do it." And then when,
bro, what? I thought you what? That's the Pac-12. That is that is the Pac-12.
God. That's wild.
Yeah, casual.
Good poll by you.
Bro, that is
good poll
crazy.
It is absolutely wild. Timmy Pruitt. The Pac-12 only legends in their own minds.
Conference of Champions, dude.
Steve Spenlove. Exactly my point. Why say that? I have no idea.
Yeah. Yep.
Jeff Woodworth. Look, the longer we go without a deal, the longer we get to keep all of our teams. You probably ain't wrong about that, man. You probably are not wrong about that. You know. J.K. Marshall says, or two holes.
What did we miss?
What do you mean?
Yeah, what did we miss?
I don't know what did we miss. I have no idea what we missed. All right, let's wrap up with a couple more of your comments. You guys, thank you. I know that we have had a really busy day today, and I know that it is just I'm so thankful. I just you guys are amazing, and it is I'm hearing from our friends at the Advocates. That OG Gary made a great donation. Ryan made a great donation. The Advocates, thank you. It's remarkable that you guys have supported the Advocates. Before I get out of here, I just want to say the Advocates are raising money for homeless kids to go back to school. They are working with a group called The Road Home, who is one of the leading homeless advocacy groups in this country. And you guys, I think you know by now I am passionate about keeping our kids as innocent as possible for as long as possible. So it's very difficult for me to imagine a kid that's in, let's call it 7th grade. He doesn't know where he sleeps every night, and he may be in a shelter or a car or a park. Who knows? And he doesn't have socks to wear to school. They're raising money for these kids because most of these kids don't have underwear to wear to school, or they only own one pair of underwear, and they're homeless. So how often is that pair of underwear getting laundered? How often is their torn pair of pants getting put in the washing machine? And let's not even talk about how are they doing their homework at night? What are they eating for dinner? Because the best meal they're probably going to get is at school, if they have a lunch program, because they probably can't afford lunch money if they're homeless. And I understand that people get frustrated with parenting. I get that. But let's take a minute and consider helping these kids, because the Advocates in The Road Home have partnered up to give these kids the essentials that they need. We're not talking about $1,000 backpacks. We're talking about having a backpack. We're talking about having a pair of shoes, a pair of socks. Let's give them multiple pairs of socks. Let's give them multiple pairs of underwear so they can go to school and be confident. You're in a classroom with no socks and no underwear on and a torn pair of jeans trying to learn algebra. Trying to be confident, trying to make friends, trying to have some idea of how to relate to the opposite sex with a girl or a guy. Imagine being a girl that doesn't have socks or underwear. Imagine, and you're going to school. Think about that, you guys. Let's do what we can do. You see the address on your screen. It's for Venmo. If you have it in your hearts and you have it in your wallets, I ask you $1, $50, $1 million, $5. Whatever you can give, please consider Venmoing Advocates donations on Venmo. It would be amazing if you guys would take a minute and just send them $1. a $5, whatever you have, man, it all makes a difference. We've had so many people give, and I just thank you so much for that, you guys. It makes a world of difference.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. All right, let's take a couple more minutes, read your comments here on the Monty Show. Let's see. Tom says the top 6 schools in the Pac-12 could go toe-to-toe with anyone in the nation. The Big has 3, the SEC has a ton, the 12 has 1 or 2, the ACC has 1 or 2. I think the Big Ten is the most overrated conference in the country.
Yeah.
And
I think the Big Ten's got 2. I think saying they have 3 is generous.
I think, I think is generous for certain. For certain. Derek, what's up, Roche? Matt, something is going on we don't know about because they're still not losing confidence. What did Matt say? Matt Jenkins. Just logged in, coming from North Carolina. I'm a West Virginia fan. This is complete incompetence on the conference's part. Absolutely.
Yeah.
How long before the schools lose complete confidence in George Kliavkoff and staff? And it's a great point, though. They're communicating on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
George Kliavkoff is telling them, hey, here's the deal, and it's coming. And they're just going to have to make a value judgment for their own situation.
Yeah, I don't think that the leadership at these schools, the chancellors, presidents, and ADs are going around each day being like, man, do we really trust that George can get us a deal? I think we're way past that. Yeah. I think we're much more in a position where they're just simply saying, okay, cool, one day this deal is going to show up, and we need to be prepared for both actions or both plans or both paths.
Absolutely. Steve Spenlove, one of our newest members on the show. Thanks, Steve. Davis District now is building teen centers so kids can go to school early to shower, do laundry, and eat breakfast before school starts. It's that common of a problem.
Damn.
Man. Can just imagine being a kid that's homeless.
Yeah.
Just think about how are you going to get passing grades? We're talking about literacy. You're talking about learning to read, write, and do basic math. And you're homeless trying to do that, and you're in school with certainly not equipment that you need, calculators, pencils, pens, backpacks, paper.
Yeah.
But clothing. I don't know what it must be like for a high school kid not to have underwear. That really hit me the other week when I was reading about that. There is a large majority of homeless children in this country who don't have basic clothing necessities like socks and underwear. That's mind-numbing to me.
Yeah.
And we're trying to set these people up to be the future leaders of America. I can't even imagine it.
Yeah.
Can't even imagine it. A couple more before we roll out for the weekend. Jeff Woodworth, PAC and Big 12 could have been massive with brands and parity. Oh, my God.
Yes, but as usual, the arrogance got
the
in the way.
Wasted potential
Yeah.
of the Pac-12. Oh, my God. George is at this time like a cult leader. He has brainwashed most of the pack, Delaric says. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know that I buy into that, but maybe.
I don't know. Christopher Shannon, isn't Cowherd's audience declining, and that's why he's deliberately criticizing fan bases to get engagement?
Cowherd.
No, we have not watched Cowherd's show in so long.
Hey, Cowherd.
We generally, on a daily basis, we either watch Jim Rome or Pat McAfee.
Or golf.
Or golf. Thursday, Friday, we're watching golf. We're watching golf because we're addicted. J.K. Marshall, basic math equals back of the envelope.
Back of the envelope calculations.
Attaboy. Exactly right. Appreciate you, J.K. Jeff Woodworth, basic math, not back of the envelope calculations. No, basic math is a higher tier than back of the envelope.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Shooter, Texas. There's a lot of pressure by alum and donors to try and stay in the pack. That's very, very true.
Yeah.
Very, very true. It will take a lot before they can get buy-in to leave the conference. It's a huge move, and it takes time. It does. It does, and it takes buy-in from your donors. Absolutely it does. MJ Bissett gets the final word today. Please share some of the money from my paid comments with the advocates. Finally got Venmo working and donated $5. Thank you.
Appreciate you. We will.
Yeah, absolutely we will. You guys, thank you. Just thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting the show. Thank you for supporting the advocates. Catch us at Canyons Golf this weekend. We'll be there tomorrow morning at 7 golfing. We'll be there Sunday at 7 golfing. Say hello if you're there. Shout out to the PXG troops in the world. And as sincerely as I can say it, this has been a record-breaking week on this show. Thank you. We appreciate every one of you. And without further ado, until Monday, say goodbye, Jake.
Goodbye, Jake.